Henry Thorne, step outside now.
Oh, Roger, have a drink.
I have not come here to drink. Step outside.
Roger, my brother is in no fit.
Step outside, or do I have to drag you?
Have a brandy.
You are clearly upset, Roger. Whatever has passed between you and my brother, can it not wait till morning? If he owes you money again, I will pay you back myself.
You are a good man, Dr. Thorne, and I have no quarrel with you. But your brother...
What has he done?
He has dishonoured my sister in the most terrible...
Oh, my lord. Is she?
She is with child, sir. And all for the sport of this piece of filth! You shall come outside with me now, sir!
Wait! What will beating him bring you? That will not help your sister! Stop! Scratch and stop it! You'll kill him!
Dr. Thorne by Anthony Trollope, dramatised by Michael Simmons Roberts.
Henry Thorne never walked these streets again. One fight, one night, many years ago. And you can still hear the echoes in Greshambury, where I live and work these days. It's not like Barchester, tempered by the great cathedral with its gargoyles glowering down on everyone. No. Out in the wilds of Barsetshire County, there's all sorts of goings-on. Greshambury is a little town or a big village, tucked right on the border between stuffy conservative East Barsetshire and pushy jumped-up West Barsetshire. And that gives Greshambury a very funny chemistry indeed, I can tell you.
Lady Arabella, I must say the gardens look radiant today. So fitting for such an occasion.
Yes, Doctor. Our people have been working very hard to make it presentable.
But where is the birthday boy? I haven't seen him yet.
He's by the lake, Mary. Looks like he's been trapped by some old soak trying to bore him to death.
That is my husband, Dr. Thorne.
Oh, my goodness. Countess, please accept my apologies. A little levity, that's all. Mary, shall we go and join the Count and young Frank?
I think we better. Lady Arabella, Countess, do please excuse my uncle's wit.
I'm not happy about it. I will not have that girl as a bridesmaid at my only daughter's wedding.
Not happy? Arabella, it's impossible.
It grieves me enough to think that poor Augusta is marrying the son of a tailor.
A very wealthy son of a tailor, my dear, don't forget that.
Well, how could I, with the state of our finances?
And he will have a seat in Parliament, and his manners make up for his lack of good blood.
I've long since accepted that my children must marry money, since their father has made such a mess of things.
What does he do with it, dear?
But if she is to marry a commoner, then at least we must ensure that the bridesmaids are of the right stock.
And she's a doctor's daughter?
It's worse than that. She's the doctor's niece. No one knows a thing about her parents. Just disturbing rumours.
It's quite impossible, then.
Quite. I mean, however sweet Mary Thorne may be, she is not the right stock.
Indeed not. You must insist. You've been more than generous with that girl, Arabella. She has had the run of your house and the friendship of your children. Quite the prize for a doctor's niece. But there must be limits.
I know exactly where the limits lie.
What are you plotting, Mother?
We are not plotting anything, Augusta. Your aunt and I were just discussing your wedding.
Oh, discussing my wedding without me?
There is an urgent issue to be addressed.
I know the dress is a little, well, showy.
The dress is lovely, dear. It's the bridesmaids we're concerned about.
Why? Oh, I see.
Mrs. Baxter?
Yes, my lady.
There are guests with empty plates under the trees. Can you make sure that all parts of the garden are served?
We shall do our best, my lady.
I'm asking you to do your job, Mrs. Baxter, not your best.
It is not my job to serve Lady Arabella Gresham's house guests. It is my job, allotted to me by the bishop himself, to serve in Greshambury Vicarage for the good but helpless Reverend Caleb Oriel and his sister Patience. I do miss my lovely Mr. Harding and Barchester, but he is very well looked after by his daughters, and my Lord Bishop felt that there was a greater need for my services here with Mr. Oriel. Because it is young Frank Gresham's coming-of-age party, and because my Miss Patience Oriel is a good friend of Frank, I agreed to lend a hand serving tea and cake. I did not agree to being ticked off by that monstrous old harridan, Lady Arabella.
Careful, there are roots all over. Don't fall.
Where are we going, Frank? They'll be wondering where you've gone.
Hang them all. There's something I want to show you.
What?
Here, look at that.
It's my initials.
And mine, too.
Well, what if the gamekeeper finds them?
It's 1 tree in 1,000. Only we know which one. And besides, they'll all know about our secret one day.
There's no secret to tell, Frank. Don't be so melodramatic.
Must you make me say it?
I'm not making you say anything.
I love you, Mary. More than the stars love the sky, more than the sea loves the shore, more than... Have you nothing to say?
Lady Arabella would not approve.
What does it matter what my mother thinks?
A doctor's niece, Frank. That's me. And you have the world at your feet.
I don't want the world. I want you, Mary.
We come from different worlds.
Different worlds. Different worlds. Ah!
Frank, are you mad?
There's my blood, Mary. The same shade as yours, I'd be willing to bet. We are not from different worlds.
You were too headstrong. What did that poor tree do to deserve a punch?
I have strong feelings. Augusta! Hey!
Oh, I didn't see anyone.
My sister spying on us.
Where?
Oh, she's run off now, off to tell my mother, no doubt.
Look. You know we shall always be close.
Close? Are you refusing my love?
We are very young, and it is complicated.
Are you refusing me, Mary?
If you force me to say it, then yes, I am refusing you.
Thank you for your honesty. I must get back to my guests.
No, Lady Arabella certainly would not approve. Even now she's plotting to stop poor Mary bringing shame on her family by acting as a bridesmaid. If she knew her son and heir was cap over boots in love with her, oh, my.
And finally, before I introduce my son, I must thank you all for joining us on this beautiful afternoon. It's been a pleasure to welcome you to Greshambury.
What's left of it?
And now, the man who will one day inherit all of this, it is with great pride that I introduce my son, Frank.
Father, I only wish I inherited your gift of oratory.
About all he'll have left.
But with my limited gifts, I shall keep this to the point, and that is to thank all of you so much for coming to help me celebrate my coming of age. And to thank my parents for giving me such a wonderful party.
What's happened to his hand? Oh, goodness knows. Sometimes I think he's as hopeless as his father.
And so I ask you all to raise your glasses to the birthday boy himself, to young Frank. Good health.
To young Frank.
Mary, I was looking for you.
Can we go, please?
Are you all right? You look pale.
I would like to go home, please.
If truth be told, Mary, I spent the rest of the party trying to avoid Lady Arabella. It required constant vigilance because she kept moving. More wine?
I've had enough, I think.
And I felt for the squire, doing his best to hold it all together like a gentleman, but you could hear the quiver in his voice as he raised the toast to Frank. More beef? I can cut you some.
I'm full, thank you. I might go up to bed.
So soon, my dear?
I'm rather exhausted.
Mary, is something wrong? You can always tell me, you know that.
Oh, God.
There, now dry those tears. What is it?
Augusta has told me I cannot be a bridesmaid.
Sounds like a lucky escape to me.
This Lady Arabella. Augusta said she wouldn't allow it.
Yes, I'd have guessed that. She's obsessed with blood and breeding. You'd think her children were horses.
Why am I so unacceptable?
Mary, don't talk like that. It's not you in particular, it's the whole game. The bridegroom himself is hardly an earl, he's just very wealthy. Blood or money, those are the tickets.
Perhaps I shall have a drop more wine.
Very good. Even those of us not blessed with blue blood can still have fine wine, eh?
What is my blood, Uncle?
Oh, not this again, Mary. You are from the same stock as me. You know that.
I know that my father was your brother. And my mother?
They are both no longer with us. When Henry died, I promised to raise you as my own daughter, and I hope...
Oh, Uncle, you would have been more to me than any parent I could have wished for.
No daughter of mine could ever have surpassed you.
Do you really mean that?
Of course I do.
I lean on you so much, Uncle, and you never complain.
Why would I complain? You have brought me such joy and love, Mary.
I have never, for a moment, felt the lack of a father. But I do sometimes wonder about my mother.
All I can say is that your mother was unfortunate in much, but she never disgraced herself.
Well, where ought I to rank myself?
What a question.
Are the Greshams right to regard me as a lesser blood?
Oh, Mary, you are worth 1,000 Lady Arabellas.
Sometimes it can break a man, the secrets he has to bear. But bear them he must, if that's the only way to protect those he loves. And Dr. Thorne is a good man, good and wise. That's why he's much more than a doctor to some round these parts. He's a friend and confidant to many, and a financial advisor to the henpecked and penniless squire of Greshambury.
£12,000?
I said 10 to 12,000.
It's a very large sum of money.
Will he let me have it?
Scratchard has already lent you a considerable sum.
I wish I didn't have to ask, Thorne. Honestly, I do.
I will take that cognac. Thank you.
Yes, of course.
If you can afford it.
You're right to mock me, Thorne.
I didn't mean to mock you.
I was born to be custodian of Greshambury, and I've failed in that duty.
It's not your fault.
Oh, come on, man. I've no head for figures.
I would suggest that Lady Arabella has some part to play in this.
My lady wife does have expensive tastes.
Why did you sell the house in London?
Oh, Arabella would not hear of it. I've tried. It's the de Courcy blood. She'd wither and die if she couldn't entertain in London for the season.
A fully staffed house in Portman Square must cost a fortune.
I have no choice but to ask Scratchard for another loan. Has he got the money?
Sir Roger has more money than he knows what to do with.
Would he lend me 12?
He would, I'm sure. But what can you offer him as security?
I've already given him the finest house on the estate, apart from this one.
Yes, he has Boxall Hill, but that barely covers his previous loans to you.
It's so shaming. Up to the hilt in debt to a bricklayer.
Stonemason. And he hasn't laid a stone for 20 years, as well you know.
And we're not supposed to mention his time served in prison. Not now he's a knight of the realm.
He's not forcing his money on you, Mr. Gresham.
I know. I'm sorry. I'm very grateful to him.
Without Sir Roger Scratchard's loans, you would have lost the estate by now.
I realise that. I'm sorry, Thorne. It is simply guilt. I feel wretched for the injury I've done to poor Frank. Some legacy from my father, an estate in Hock.
You need to be practical now. Would you like me to ask Sir Roger for another 12?
Yes, please. I have no choice.
I'm sure he will lend you the money, but I'm equally sure that he'll ask for the title deeds as security.
What title deeds? To this place?
Yes. It's all you have left to offer to secure the loan.
It's out of the question, Thorne. I cannot risk the family home.
I believe, sir, that you have no alternative.
You wanted to see me, Mother. Augusta told me.
Do you like this game? It's French. You have to find all the kings, queens and knaves and assemble them in families.
I'm not familiar with that one.
Sit down, Frank, dear.
You summoned me for a card game. I was working upstairs.
Oh, you're always working. Does Cambridge not give its young gentlemen any time off?
Plenty, but I'm going back next week and want to be prepared.
Next week? Oh, darling, must you?
It's the start of term, Mother. I can't just fail to turn up.
Then it's even more important that we have our conversation now, before it's too late.
Too late for what?
Too late to rescue the situation.
I don't understand.
You know that your father is borrowing even more money from that horrible scratch-eyed person.
He did tell me, yes.
Greshambury is in peril, Frank.
That's a little dramatic, isn't it?
Dramatic? Dramatic? We've lost Boxall Hill, the house in Portman Square is under threat, and now Scratchard wants the title deeds to Greshambury Hall itself. And you think I'm being dramatic?
I know all this. The father has had difficult times.
Your father has completely mismanaged the estate.
I don't wish to hear my own mother attacking my father.
I'm not attacking him, Frank. I'm telling you the truth. He admits it himself. He has put at risk the entire legacy he should be leaving you.
Which is why it is important that I do well at Cambridge, so that I can find good work.
Work? Work? The Squire of Greshambury should not work. Your work is to manage the estate and to ensure its future.
Oh, why are you telling me this, Mother? I know it already.
I'm worried that you might not be fully aware of your duty,
My
Frank.
duty? I am learning as much as I can about money and the law.
I'm not thinking about your studies.
Oh, I understand. How slow I've been. I should have realised when Augusta told me you wished to see me.
Augusta was worried too.
When she saw me with Mary Thorne.
In the woods? At your party, yes.
So she's been spying on me and telling tales.
She is concerned. We all are.
What have you got against Mary Thorne?
She is a nice young woman, Frank, and I'm very fond of her. But I fear you're getting impossible ideas, and I want to nip them in the bud before they grow.
Impossible ideas?
That one day you might wish to marry Mary Thorne.
I do. I would. If she would have me, I would marry her tomorrow.
Frank, this is absolutely out of the question.
Why? Because she's not got the right blood?
That's true.
So because I have your precious de Courcy blood, I cannot marry the girl I love?
That is not the major obstacle.
So what is?
Money.
I don't care if she has money.
Oh, you're being flighty and ridiculous, Frank.
I'm not listening to this any longer.
Are you walking out on your mother, Frank?
If my mother continues to insult me, then yes.
Very well. But let me say one last thing. It is my duty as your mother to remind you of your duty as the heir to Greshambury. It is simple. You must marry money. If you don't marry money, the estate will be lost.
So I'm supposed to walk the streets of London tipping my hat to wealthy-looking widow?
Don't be facetious, Frank. I have made it my business to help you in this regard, and your aunt, the Countess, will be introducing you to a fine lady this weekend at Courcy Castle. She has inherited a fortune from her father's business.
But I cannot go to Courcy Castle this weekend. I have Cambridge work to do.
Oh, hang your Cambridge work. Meeting Miss Martha Dunstable is far more important.
I am not going, Mother.
Frank, it is all arranged, and I can assure you that you shall go to Courcy Castle this weekend.
I suspect he shall too. When that monstrous mother of his wants something, she invariably gets it. Or she makes someone else get it for her. People like the Greshams don't like doing their own dirty work. Which is why poor Dr. Thorne is on his way to Boxall Hill to see Sir Roger Scratchard, to do the Squire's dirty work and ask for yet another loan. Well, that's not the main reason he's going there. Lady Scratchard sent for him this morning because her husband's not well. The man's a shocking drunk. Always was. It's a miracle to me that he's done so well in life. A jobbing stonecutter with a criminal record, and he sucks on the brandy bottle like a baby at a bosom. But he came out of jail, and he found he was the right man at the right time. He got work on the new railways, and within a year, he was running the show. They say no one can plan and lay a track like Scratchard's firm, and the railways have been good to him. He's even running for a seat in Parliament at the next election to represent the folk of Greshambury.
Oh, thank you, Doctor, for coming so soon.
You're welcome, my lady. How is he? Not much the matter, I hope.
Indeed, Doctor, he is bad enough. There's been something at the back of his head, rapping, and if you don't do something, I'm thinking it will rap him too hard yet.
Is he in bed?
Yes, sir, I put him to bed because he don't seem quite right about the legs.
I'll go straight up to him.
Well, well, I do hear the footsteps of the doctor, if I'm not mistaken.
Lady Scratchard called for me.
I told that woman I'm in fine fettle. But you've smelt me out and come for your fee, have you? Eh?
It's natural she should be anxious about your health.
She's the best woman in the world, Doctor. The very best. I am blessed.
I'm sure of it.
What are you doing?
Taking your pulse. Now, let me look into your eyes.
Even my wife doesn't look into these yellow pools anymore.
You must turn over a new leaf, Sir Roger, and you must start immediately.
Nonsense. Am I to pay for you to frighten me?
No human body can stand such shocks as these much longer.
What shocks? I take a nip of brandy every now and then.
Scratchard, you were as near to meeting your maker as any man I've treated.
I've been ailing, but I'm mended now.
Mended? How can you be mended when your limbs refuse to carry you, and the blood is beating round your brain with a violence that would see off a lesser man?
I'm made of stern stuff, Doctor.
I have a clear prescription for you, and it's one you must follow to the letter if you wish to live.
I know. You'll tell me to take less brandy.
I am telling you that you should abstain completely and finally from brandy and any other intoxicating liquor, and you should abstain from work for several weeks.
Abstain from work? How can I? The railway won't build itself. And I have the election coming up. I must do my campaigning.
If you work in your present state, you will certainly have recourse to the stimulus of drink. And if you drink, you will most assuredly die.
What do you take me for, Doctor? Do you think I need Dutch courage to do my work?
Scratchard, I know that there is brandy in the room at this very moment.
You're mistaken, sir. It's the smell of the polish my lady uses on the floor.
I can feel the alcohol working in your veins.
You're a very good fellow, Thorne. But I ain't sure you're the best doctor in all England.
You may be sure I am not. But while I am here as your medical advisor, I can only tell you the truth to the best of my thinking. And the truth is this, that another heavy bout of drinking will, in all probability, kill you.
Don't be absurd.
Give me that brandy bottle.
What brandy bottle?
The one you've hidden under your pillow.
Do you think I can't keep a small brandy in my room without drinking it?
Give me the bottle.
Well, get out! I've had enough.
Well, that's your choice. All I can do is advise.
I reject your advice. And I shall seek the advice of Dr. Philgrave.
Very well. Good day to you, Scratcher.
I'm sure Dr. Philgrave will be more understanding.
Oh, Doctor, you ain't going to leave him, are you?
I've been dismissed, Lady Scratcher.
He's a cussed old fool, but he doesn't mean nothing by it. Now, I'm so very worried about him.
I'm sorry, but there's nothing I can do. He won't listen to me. I bid you good day.
Doctor! Dr. Thorne! Come back, please.
He says you were to come back, sir. I'm sure he'll listen to you now.
He's got to stop drinking. It is killing him.
Can you imagine it, Patience? The Countess getting more and more pompous with every sip of claret.
Oh, Corsia Castle is only one of our houses. We have a separate country estate for each one of our Labradors and a full staff to serve them.
Oh, poor Frank is dreading having to spend the weekend there, but his mother has insisted.
Oh, how dreadful. Can you imagine? Death by dreary de Courcy.
Well, as a man of the cloth, I cannot sit here and listen to such vicious demolition of the good character of the de Courcy family, to whom we all owe such a great debt of gratitude.
For what, Caleb?
For showing us all the correct way to behave.
Dinner will be ready in about 10 minutes, if that would suit you all.
It would suit us perfectly, Mrs. Baxter.
Thank you, Mrs. Baxter, but I shall be leaving just as soon as my uncle comes to collect me. I was expecting him hours ago. I'm so sorry.
There's plenty of dinner for you and your uncle, Miss Mary. Don't you think twice about it.
You're very kind, Mrs. Baxter.
Perhaps you'd like to lend Mrs. Baxter a hand, Caleb?
Ah, discretion is the better part of priesthood, and I know when to take a hint. See you at the dinner table.
So, you're still seeing Frank then, Mary? Are you sure you're not in love with him?
I have loved Frank all my life, but I cannot be in love with him.
Why not? He's in love with you, sure enough.
It's impossible, Patience. He's an aristocrat, a Gresham, a de Courcy. It's just impossible. So I will not let myself think about it.
Well, can you control your thoughts and passions so easily?
I have to. Once I realised how firmly his family would stand against our love, I had no option but to bury it.
Now, give me your hand, Doctor, and give me half an hour of your time. I may be dead before you can give me another half an hour, who knows?
I hope to spend many more half hours in your company, Scratchard, but only if you give up the drink.
That moment has long passed, Doctor. Drink is my friend and comforter, and I cannot be without it.
Scratchard, good fellow. We've known each other a long time, and I know the strength of your will if you set your mind to a task.
What gratification have I except the brandy bottle? If I go among gentlemen, can I talk to them? If they have anything to say about a railway, they will ask me a question. If they speak to me beyond that, I must be dumb. If I go among my workmen, can they talk to me? No. I am their master. They bob their heads and shake in their shoes when they see me. Where are my friends? Here. Where's my comfort after my toils? Here.
But surely you wouldn't die for such a gratification.
Die for it? Aye. I shall live for it while I can live, and die for it when I can live no more.
But you were such a success. You have the resources to do anything you want to do.
Yes. I'm worth £300,000 at the last count. But I'd give it all up tomorrow to be able to go back to work with my hardened mortar, and have a fellow clap his hand on my shoulder and say, "Well, Roger, shall us have that here half pint this morning?" Sometimes I think the good Lord is punishing me for the life I've lived.
It's a sorry thing to see a man in such wretched self-pity. And in my experience, the drink just makes it worse. The poor doctor stays for more than half an hour. In fact, he stays well into the evening, and the two men's talk turns from God to Mammon. Dr. Thorne's plea, on behalf of his friend the squire, goes much as he expected.
£12,000? Well, he must be in trouble.
You would be most grateful if you would help him.
Very well. But I shall need the title deeds to his house by way of security.
And then old Scratchard turns the talk to his inheritance. He says he's made a will, and that his wife will be provided for, and that everything else will go to his son Louis. Yes, Louis. More about him in a while. And then, to the doctor's great discomfort, Scratchard tells him that the sole executor of said will is to be...
You.
Me? But I'm no lawyer, Scratchard.
It's not a lawyer I need. It's a man I can trust, and that's you, Thorne.
But I cannot...
You and I have known each other better than most, and helped each other more than most for all these years, Thorne.
It's a huge responsibility, a vast estate.
I shall hear no more about it. And all of Louis's inheritance will be in trust under your control until he turns 25.
But forgive this morbid suggestion.
I know what you're thinking, Thorne.
Louis has a taste for the bottle too, I believe.
It's true enough. And if Louis should perchance not live to see his 25th birthday, and by the grace of God I pray he will be spared, then I should like my estate to go to my sister Mary's eldest son.
Mary's son?
Yes, Thorne. The unfortunate boy she conceived out of wedlock.
But you don't even know him, do you?
I never met the lad before she left to make her new life in America. Always felt I should have done more to see him on his way after such a terrible start in life. Maybe, in the end, I can make it up to him.
But Mary's been in America for years. Do you even know where she is?
I do not. But there will be plenty of money to send someone over to find her.
The poor doctor is as churned as butter. He walked into Scratchard's house as the old boy's doctor. He walked out hours later as sole executor of his will and guardian of his son's inheritance. It's a lot to soak up. But at times like this, it's better to be in the company of friends. And my Reverend Oriel is surely one of his closest. By chance, the good doctor's lovely niece Mary is the closest of friends with my Miss Patience, the Reverend's sister. So the doctor calls to pick up Mary from our vicarage on his way back from the Scratchards.
Come in, Doctor. Oh, you're soaking. Let me hang your coat up.
Oh, thank you, Mrs. Baxter. But I mustn't stay. I've done enough.
Oh, I'm in no rush, Uncle.
Please, Dr. Thorne, I'm afraid you're too late for dinner, but Mrs. Baxter could rustle up something for you.
I couldn't impose upon you.
I will not hear another word against it, sir. We'll leave these two ladies to talk.
I'll sort you out some food, sir. It might not be hot, mind.
You are most generous, Mrs. Baxter.
And so I do. And so they eat and talk. Or at least Dr. Thorne eats while Mr. Oriel talks. But the good doctor is not himself at all. Hardly says a word beyond please and thank you. My Reverend, ever sensitive to persons in distress, eventually draws him out.
You know that Sir Roger Scratchard did many years ago serve a term in jail?
I had heard that. A drunken brawl with a fellow stonemason, they say.
Yes, that's what they say. In fact, it was for murder.
Murder? Oh, my lord. I'd heard it was just a brawl.
And it wasn't with a fellow stonemason.
Oh?
No, it was a wealthy rake. A terrible drunk, a cheat, a thief, and a menace to women in particular.
I see.
He used to drink in the same taverns as Scratchard, and through that friendship he met Scratchard's younger sister, Mary. And the rake took advantage of Mary, promised her everything, love, undying devotion, marriage, and meant absolutely none of it. She was just another of his dalliances, but he did give her something. A child.
Oh, my lord.
Yes, and when she found out she was with child, she went to the rake hoping he would marry her. But he turned his back, and she turned to her brother Roger for help in desperation.
To Scratchard?
To Roger Scratchard, yes. And he rescued her. He got in touch with a previous suitor, a solid, upright, local tradesman who was willing to marry Mary and to bring up her child as their own firstborn. Roger arranged a passage to America for them to start a new life, and that they did.
But Scratchard wanted revenge.
Yes. He went looking for this wealthy rake who had seduced his sister, found him propping up one of the usual bars, dragged him outside, and beat him to death.
A crime of passion.
Yes, I think it was. And the judge saw it that way and was relatively lenient. So Roger served his sentence, came out, and the rest you know.
He rebuilt his life.
Scratchard was always hard-working and clever in his way. He became an essential part of the government's rush to build the railways, became rich, became Sir Roger. And that should be the end of the story.
But I'm guessing it's not.
No, because he never conquered the bottle. So when I visited him this evening, he got to talking about his will. And the upshot is that I'm the executor, much against my will, that his son Louis will inherit all when he turns 25, and that in the event of Louis's death before that age, then everything shall go to his sister Mary's eldest child.
Well, that makes sense. But I don't understand how you became so caught up in all this, Thorne. It's well beyond your duty as a doctor, I'd say.
No, I was caught up in it from the start. That wealthy rake who wronged Scratchard's sister, that was my brother, Henry.
Is Michaelmas term particularly busy at Cambridge, Frank? Your mother tells me you are working very hard.
I always study hard. But yes, it's the start of my final year, so I'm determined to do well. I was hoping to work this weekend, actually.
Good, good. I'm sure you will do very well. Mind you, I do think it ill befits a gentleman to do too much study of dead languages and ancient history.
Oh, really, Aunt? And what should a gentleman be doing?
There are much more important skills, such as how to run an estate, how to secure sufficient funds, and how to manage them once they are secured.
And how to find a rich wife.
You would do well to follow your sister Augusta's path.
Marrying Moffat? The man's rich, but he's detestable. I'm sure Augusta doesn't love him.
She likes him well enough. He is neither ugly nor dull. He is amply able to support her.
Oh, for a poet to sing the praises of such a love.
Oh, don't be so infantile, Frank. You could do with a dose of your sister's practicality. Your romantic nature will be the undoing of you.
God forbid that we might lose our Louis. But I have altered my will in case we do. As I said, Thorne, my estate would then pass to my sister Mary's eldest son.
Scratchard, there is something you should know.
What is it, Thorne?
Oh, I'm afraid this will come as a shock to you.
Mary's son is dead? Have you traced them in America, Thorne?
No, I haven't traced them. I didn't need to. Mary's son never existed.
What?
He's just a story, invented to put an end to gossip.
This is nonsense, Thorne. I saw my Mary's belly swell with child. There was no story.
I did not intend this to come out so suddenly, but circumstances...
For the love of God, Thorne, just tell me.
The child who you wish to be your inheritor, if anything should happen to Louis, is a girl. Your sister Mary's eldest child is my Mary.
Your niece?
My niece, and your niece.
What? What? Your Mary is my flesh and blood?
Yes.
But why didn't I know? You've been my doctor for years, and I've never met the girl. Why were you keeping her from me?
When she was born and her mother fled to America, her only living relatives were you and me. You, at the time, were in prison for murdering her father. So I took her in and raised her as my own.
But Thorne, I served my sentence and have made my way in the world. That is ancient history.
I know. But if I'd told her you were her uncle, I should have had to tell her the circumstances of her birth, and I have seen fit to shield her from that. So I told everyone that your sister's child was a son.
To protect her from me?
Not from you, Scratchard. My brother was the real villain here, remember. I felt that she would have a better chance in life if she grew up without knowing she was the fruit of a drunken seduction, followed by a murder.
Does she know anything?
No, nothing. I wanted to protect her, but keeping it from her is a terrible burden.
So, if anything happens to my Louis, the Scratchard inheritance is hers by right.
As your executor, I felt I had to tell you.
But to keep her from me all these years, it wounds me, Thorne. I have never had a daughter. I should have loved to care for my sister's daughter. You have kept her from me. I must see her.
Do you really want your niece to see you like this? To remember you drowning in a brandy bottle?
I have been sleepless with worry, Doctor. I fear that my heart is giving out, beat by weary beat.
Well, your heart sounds strong to me, Lady Arabella. I don't think you've got anything to worry about.
But this lurid rash, Doctor.
It's a small patch of dry skin. I can give you some ointment for it.
And something to help me sleep.
If you need it, yes. But if you are in a state of anxiety and agitation, it is probably best to address the cause rather than the symptoms.
Ah, the cause. Yes, I know what this is.
Then I suggest you look there for the real cure, my lady.
But, Doctor, you are the one person who can give me that cure.
I've told you, I'm happy to give you something for the dry skin.
No, you are the one person who can address the real cause.
Really? Well, of course, if I can.
Because that cause concerns your niece.
Mary? How?
I am informed that things have passed between your niece and my son Frank, which ought never to have passed.
What things? Who says so?
Doctor, there have been love-makings, words, I mean, but of a very advanced description.
Who says so? Whoever it is has made a grave mistake.
My dear Doctor, what took place was quite clearly heard.
You have people eavesdropping on my niece?
Of course not. But my daughter Augusta happened to be passing.
And what took place? What did she hear?
An offer was made.
An offer? Of love? Of marriage? Who made it?
There has been fault on both sides, I'm sure, and no doubt Frank has had a hand in it.
I utterly deny it. I positively deny it.
But of course you cannot deny it because you were not there.
I know my niece, and I know for certain that she has no part in any offers that have been made.
Well, however it started, it's very clear that those two young people must not be thrown together again.
Well, if that's what you want, then I shall tell Mary to stay away from here.
Doctor, Frank must marry money. And sweet girl that she is, your Mary's station in life is very far from Frank's station.
Good day, Lady Gresham.
Doctor, you will still come to our aid when we're sick, won't you?
If you need medical assistance and you send for me, I shall come to you. Otherwise, I shall share the sentence which has been passed on Mary. I wish you good morning.
Oh, Frank, there you are. Let me introduce you to Mr. Moffat.
We've met. Thank you, Aunt.
Indeed. I am fortunate enough to be engaged to Master Frank's sister.
We have such lovely guests this weekend. Frank, will you follow me to the garden?
Of course. Perhaps I should propose to her now to get it out of the way.
No need to take that tone, Frank.
May I follow too?
Yes, of course, Mr. Moffat.
So, although I've been to Barchester once to visit the cathedral, I've never really explored this part of the county.
Miss Dunstable, this is my sister Arabella's son, Frank. He's the heir to Greshambury.
Well, it's a pleasure to meet you, sir.
And you, Miss Dunstable. I trust your journey wasn't too tiring.
Oh, no, Frank, it was nothing. In May, we travelled all the way from Rome to Paris without sleeping in a bed. We rode in sledges part of the way.
Gosh, why were you in such a hurry?
Money matters. I was thinking of selling my father's business at the time.
And was it sold?
No, the whole affair fell through. I wish I hadn't pursued it now. Could have rolled in the snow a little longer.
Miss Dunstable. Moffat's the name. I'm very glad to make your acquaintance. A businessman myself, and I am much in admiration of your own fine business. The ointment of Lebanon.
Oh, it's my father's business, really. I'm sick of the smell of that oil, if truth be told.
Mr. Moffat, your soon-to-be wife, Miss Augusta, has arrived. Let me take you to her.
Oh, there's no rush.
I'm sure you've missed her terribly.
He's soon to be my brother-in-law. Very ambitious. He's standing to be a member of Parliament.
Let's hope democracy proves wise in this case.
Oh, you're not impressed by Mr. Moffat, then?
Rather oily, I thought. And I know a lot about oil.
He's standing against Sir Roger Scratchard. Do you know him?
The railway man? Oh, yes, I've read all about him. Sounds like a fascinating figure.
Frank! You old rogue.
George! I was hoping you'd be here.
Oh, no choice, old man. I live here.
Miss Dunstable, this is my cousin George, son of Countess de Courcy.
But don't hold it against me.
I like your mother, George. She's a generous hostess.
I want to steal Frank for 10 minutes, if I may. I've got a new horse, a hunter, just this week. I know Frank will appreciate it.
We mustn't abandon Miss Dunstable, George.
Oh, no, of course. You can come too, if you like.
I have little understanding of horses, so it would be wasted on me. You two go. There are plenty of people for me to talk to. And, more importantly, plenty of champagne.
Oh, please excuse us then, Miss Dunstable. Shall we see you at dinner?
Very much so.
There's no new horse, Frank. You just looked in need of rescue.
Oh, she's all right, actually. Quite a wit, in fact.
Oh. Is she the one your mother's trying to marry you off to?
The very one.
But she's ancient, Frank.
I know. Must be over 30. I thought that at first.
Only at first.
Oh, there's something about her. She has a style and spirit. And Moffat's noticed too. He's been all over her.
Oh, no shame. He's engaged to your sister.
Uncle, I'm sorry, but I've eaten already. I gave up waiting.
No, you're quite right. I'm very late.
I assumed you'd been called to a deathbed somewhere. Shall I ask Janet to fetch you some food?
I'm not hungry at the moment, Mary. Lady Arabella Gresham has that effect on me.
Oh, no. Well, what's wrong with her? Is she sick?
No, she's in perfect health. But she has put herself in a turmoil about young Frank.
Turmoil? Oh, what kind of turmoil? Is he all right?
Oh, yes, Frank is very well. But his mother is convinced that there is some growing attachment between you and Frank.
What? I have known Frank since I was an infant. We've always been close.
But she is convinced that you are becoming closer. In fact, she thinks you may be falling in love with each other.
Well, that would be impossible. The Greshambury estate would be lost.
So do you love him?
Why do you ask the question, Uncle? It is impossible.
Lady Arabella has asked me to tell you Mary, it makes me so angry.
Do not be upset on my account.
She has asked that you stay away from Greshambury for the moment to avoid meeting Frank.
What?
She seems to think you have some corrupting power over her son.
That's madness.
I know. It's absurd and cruel. I'm so angry for you.
Oh, don't worry, Uncle. It will pass. I can live without visiting Greshambury.
Well, if they're sending you into exile, then I shall be in exile too.
I always take a doctor with me on my journeys overseas, but invariably I end up nursing him.
He has a weak constitution?
Weakened by drink, I fear.
So you take an entourage with you on your travels?
3 or 4 staff, but I end up looking after them too. And then there are the lovers.
Lovers?
Oh yes, Mr. Gresham. Are you surprised that I should have lovers?
Oh, no, of course not. I expect you have countless men beating a path to your door. And please, call me Frank.
Not countless, Frank. Maybe 3 or 4 worth counting.
Gosh.
You seem surprised. Is that not quite enough?
On the contrary, a lot of competition.
Well, I change them sometimes. It would be so dull to keep the same 3 or 4 lovers, don't you think?
My sister was admiring the way you curl your hair.
She is too generous.
And so do I. I imagine many of your lovers compliment you on your hair.
Men find my ringlets particularly attractive when they're done up with banknotes, I find.
Are you teasing me, Miss Dunstable?
Only very gently, Mr. Gresham.
Miss Dunstable, hello again. I couldn't help but admire your jewellery. What a beautiful necklace. And I wondered if perhaps after coffee you might like a walk in the gardens. I'm told there is a pagoda in the rose garden.
Thank you, Mr. Moffat. I will see what plans the Countess has for me.
Well, if you're willing, I would happily accompany you.
Save me, Frank. The man's not taken his eyes off my jewels all night.
Caleb's working on a sermon. He'd never say anything if he overheard us, but I don't want to distract him.
Of course, Patience. I'm glad to get some air.
Oh, I still can't believe she would do that to you.
Yes, there it is. The house I cannot visit for fear I seduce their son.
Oh, it is so cruel.
That's what my uncle said. I don't see it that way. She's doing what she thinks is right. Frank must marry money.
But you do love him, don't you?
Patience, you know I love him. And I'm sure he loves me, but I've always known it isn't possible. I have no money, and as to my rank, I know nothing about it. In what class am I? Where do I fit in?
What does it matter, Mary? We are all equal under God.
Under God, maybe, but not under English skies.
Well, good night, my dears. Only the young uns left. Will you stay and talk? I'll have more coffee sent up if you wish.
I think we might play billiards, Mother.
Billiards? Well, that's not of much interest to Miss Dunstable, I'm sure.
On the contrary, I'm not without skills on the billiard table.
Well, I hope you enjoy it. Oh, Frank, before I retire, might I have a brief word?
Of course, Aunt.
Well done today, Frank. But do remember to play it slowly.
I'm sorry, I'm not with you.
With the heiress. You seem to be losing no time in getting to know her, but if you are to succeed, then you must approach your quarry with stealth.
Aunt, she's not some fox I'm hunting.
All I'm saying is take a little more time, that's all, my boy.
You know I'm only doing this to appease you and my mother.
We have your best interests at heart, my dear. You must trust us. Good night, my dear.
Frank, if Mr. Moffat tries to approach me, grab that sword off the wall and chop his head off.
Sweet maiden, it would be more pleasure than duty to protect your honour.
Do you think he wants to ravish me?
I would be astonished if he didn't.
Then I place my honour completely in your hands, Frank. It is yours to protect.
I shall not let you down.
To the billiard room, then. Who's in the tournament? Frank.
Oh, yes. You can kiss your hopes goodbye, George.
Sounds like the talk of a betting man.
Sorry, the sword looks a bit heavy. I'm up to play billiards.
Some protector you are.
Will you take another small coffee, Miss Dunstable, to keep me company?
Well, I was planning to play, Mr. Moffat.
Just 10 minutes, then we'll take on those young pups, eh? I think experience counts for so much, don't you? I'm trying to put some of my experience into public service as a member of Parliament, standing in the election against that coarse labourer, Roger Scratcher.
So I'm told. You are a very important man, Mr. Moffat.
Oh, I wouldn't say that. But I do sometimes smile to myself. Here I am, not even in mid-life, and next week I am invited to dine with the Duke of Omnium, the richest man, they say, amongst the whole English aristocracy.
Oh, men of that kind entertain everybody. Makes them feel generous.
Oh, yes, don't get me wrong. I have more pride in the honesty of my father and yours, Miss Dunstable, to build businesses from nothing. But the fact that we're here in Courcy Castle shows what money can do in this country of ours.
Yes, money does very strange things to people.
We're two of a kind, Miss Dunstable. You and I.
Are we?
Oh, I think you know we are.
And how was your Augusta this evening? Did she enjoy dinner?
Oh, yes. Augusta was born to live like this. She is as a fish in water here, whereas you and I...
What are we like, Mr. Moffat? Mermaids? Shrimps?
We are like swimmers, Miss Dunstable. We swim against the tide. We are loners, yet we yearn to find a kindred spirit.
I think we should join the billiards now, don't you?
Oh, wait, Miss Dunstable. Martha, if I may.
You may not.
I have important words to say to you. Words that may affect the rest of our lives.
May I interrupt you, Mr. Moffat? I will hear your important words on one condition.
Anything.
That your fiancée, Miss Augusta Gresham, is with us when you tell me. So she can hear the important words too.
No. No, that wouldn't be...
For surely any words that important should be heard by your future wife.
No, when you say future wife, it's not exactly...
Listen, Mr. Moffat, I know what you're doing, and I don't wish to hear any more from you. I suggest you join us for a game of billiards, and if you ever talk to me in such intimate terms again, I shall tell everyone in the castle what you said.
Oh, my goodness. I didn't mean...
Oh, yes, you did.
I shall race you, Miss Dunstable!
Oh, I've had enough racing. Did you see my horse at that fence back there? He nearly threw me.
I think they've given you the cart horse.
Oh, let's stop and get our breath. We'll pick them up when they come back past the woods.
Oh. I have never known a woman ride so well.
You have not known many women, Frank.
Would you like a drink? I've got a hip flask.
Well, it is a little cold.
I thought you were made of sterner stuff. Sledging across snow-covered Alps and all that.
Is that what I told you? My goodness. I was probably just trying to impress you.
Would you tell lies to impress me?
A little embellishment, Frank. Did it work? I shall keep inventing stories about myself until you admit to liking me.
Oh, I admit it.
Well, I can stop telling lies then. From now on, all you'll get is the naked truth.
Miss Dunstable, there is something I've been meaning to say to you, and it can wait no longer.
Not you as well, Frank.
What do you mean as well?
Don't insult me, please.
I need to say something important to you.
No, you don't.
What do you mean?
You're not smitten or devoted or enthralled by me. You're not even in love with my money, like most men. Has your aunt pushed you into this?
It was my aunt's and my mother's notion that I should meet you and that possibly I might...
So you've been acting the part they gave you all along?
No, I mean, yes. It started that way, but then I started to think you were like no woman I'd ever met.
But you're not in love with me, are you?
No.
Good. Because I'm not in love with you.
Of course. I'm sorry. I'm ashamed of myself.
You're a very sweet boy. And I can see you will be capable of great love. But it will not be for me.
I am capable of great love. I've felt it. I do feel it.
Oh, Frank, as I said, we are not...
Not for you, Miss Dunstable. For Mary Thorne.
And who is Mary Thorne?
She's our local doctor's niece.
Then you should tell her. You should marry her.
I want to. I long to. But she has no social standing, no title, no money. The Greshambury estate is on its knees, and it is my duty to marry a wealthy woman.
Do you believe that?
Everyone says it.
But do you believe it? It doesn't matter if every queen, king, and emperor in the world tells you not to marry Mary Thorne. If you love her, honestly, completely, then you must honour it.
That's what I've always believed.
So, the Gresham party comes home, leaving the Countess of De Courcy seething that her little matchmaking plan has failed. In fact, things aren't going too well for the Greshams. They're losing money like a leaky bucket spills. Their son and heir is in love with a penniless girl, and their daughter is promised to a man who would drop her to marry a donkey if it came with more of a dowry. The autumn nights come early and bite hard. I'm setting fires again to keep the vicarage warm, and poor Mary Thorne looks more lovesick by the day. I'm not a gambler, but I'd wager that when Frank comes home for Christmas, we have not heard the last of this. It is nearly Christmas in Greshambury. And how are we marking Advent? Sir Roger Scratchard is marking it by drinking ever more brandy and taking to his bed. His poor wife is beside herself with worry. For a few weeks, the news that Mary Thorne was his own flesh and blood, his sister's child by Dr. Thorne's wicked brother, gave Sir Roger a reason to cut back on the drink, but not for long. Of course, Mary herself knows nothing of her parents, just that her uncle and guardian, Dr. Thorne, is a fine and saintly man, devoted to the service of his neighbours, and that he is. Mary is still smitten with Frank Gresham, and he with her, but Lady Gresham is insisting that Frank must marry money to save the family estate. Mind you, when Frank comes home to Greshambury Hall for the weekend, he meets an atmosphere of near despair at the dinner table. It's not his love of Mary that's the problem. It's his sister Augusta's marriage. Or rather, the lack of it. She's been sent to their London house to escape the gossips because, do you know what? Her fiancé, Mr. Moffat, has only gone and jilted her.
I cannot eat another scrap. I shall retire to bed.
If you ask me, Augusta has had a fortunate escape.
Fortunate escape?
Well, better to find out now that he's a knave than 10 years into married life.
I agree, Father. I never liked him. Disgusting little man.
It is hardly a fortunate escape to have to cancel a wedding at the 11th hour. Poor Augusta.
Oh, don't worry about Augusta, Mother. She'll be fine. It's not as if Mr. Moffat were the love of her life, is it?
But for a lady of Gresham and De Courcy blood to be jilted by a mere businessman, a jumped-up tradesman, the shame of it. I shall take to my bed.
At least he lost the election.
Yes. No glorying in the title Member of Parliament.
I'd rather have Sir Roger Scratchard in our seat than that snake. At least with Scratchard you get straight talking and straight dealing.
Well, you might think so, Frank.
Is it not so?
Well, Mr. Moffat has launched an appeal against the result, alleging electoral fraud against Scratchard and his agents. And I think he will win. He's got the establishment on his side, backed by the Grand Old Duke of Omnium. Moffat may be a mere businessman, but at least he's house-trained and deferential.
Someone needs to teach that man Moffat how to behave.
It is much quieter at the vicarage than at Greshambury Hall. Reverend Oriel has been working on his Advent sermons all day, and Miss Patience is trying to keep her best friend, Mary Thorne, from brooding. Mary has been sent to live with us in exile since we're a little way outside the village, and there's too much gossip about her and Frank Gresham and her exile from Greshambury Hall. But she's a lovely girl, and I'm happy to look after her. I do still miss my old warden, Mr. Harding. Such a lovely man. but the bishop wants me to serve Reverend Oriel. And he is a lovely man, too.
Mrs. Baxter, please be so kind as to give Mary a second helping. We need to feed her up.
Of course, sir.
Oh, Mrs. Baxter, it was lovely, but I couldn't eat another scrap.
We can't have you wasting away, Miss Mary.
Oh, there's not much danger of that.
You are so kind to us, Mrs. Baxter. Indeed, you are a godsend.
Oh. It was the bishop sent me to look after you, sir. Though I should hope God had a hand in it.
How are the sermons coming along, Caleb?
Slowly. And what of you two ladies? How has your day passed?
I tried to persuade Mary to come collecting holly with me, but I couldn't prise her out of her room.
Oh, I was reading, and I had some letters to write, but I'll come out with you tomorrow, Patience.
That would be a pleasure.
But for now, I think I'll retire to my room. This winter cold is sapping my energy. I shall sleep well after all that pudding.
Oh, see you in the morning, Mary.
Good night.
She won't.
Won't what?
She won't sleep at all. Poor Mary.
Frank Gresham must be home from Cambridge now.
Yes, I believe so. And she's desperate to know if his heart is still set on her after these months away.
If it is, then he will find her.
Or not if his mother can help it.
Hello, you old scoundrel. How was Cambridge? Any sweethearts?
George! Thank you for coming. I appreciate it.
Oh, more than happy, more than happy. I'm going to pass up the chance of lunch with Cousin Frank. What brings you to London?
I told my parents I was visiting an old professor of mine, but in truth I have another kind of lesson in mind.
Oh, yes?
You'll have heard from your mother, I imagine, about my sister.
Oh, indeed. Dumped by that bounder she was due to marry. How is she?
Oh, Augusta's tough. She's being brave, but Moffat has brought shame on the family.
Oh, I can imagine.
My mother is very distraught.
So you have come to London to confront this Moffat, to demand an apology?
No, something more lasting than that. I want to teach him a lesson he'll remember.
Yes, thank you, Wilson. It was a very good lunch. My coat, please. It's rather bitter out there today.
Good afternoon, Mr. Moffat.
Ah, good afternoon. You're one of the de Courcys, aren't you? I didn't know you remember his.
Oh, I'm not. I've come to see you.
Oh, it would be my pleasure to talk, but I'm afraid I do have to rush to an important business meeting.
Mr. Moffat, in a hurry, are you?
Yes, Frank, I'm afraid it's a great hurry. Business and all that. I say, the Courcy, let go of me!
George will not detain you long, Mr. Moffat, but there's something I want to give you from my sister.
No, what is it? No, help! Help me! Please! Trying to kill
Come on, George, run!
Shall I go up to him now?
Oh, maybe best to wait until he's woken, Doctor, if you'd be so kind.
Of course.
Well, he was awake all night with the fevers. He's just gone off now.
I can come back later.
Oh, we won't be long. Let me pour you a cup of tea, Doctor.
You're very kind, Lady Scratchard.
To be honest, he's not been good lately.
I thought he was drinking less.
Well, he was until that Moffat appealed against the election. That sent him under again. He took that blow very heavy.
I'm not surprised. It sounds most unjust.
My Roger is not a cheat or a scoundrel for all his faults.
That man Moffat will stop at nothing to get what he wants.
Well, he's killing my poor Roger. He took himself to bed with only his bottles to comfort him.
Oh, I'm very sad to hear that. How much would you say he's drinking?
Well, he has me ordering 14 bottles a week, sir. And that's just the brandy.
14 bottles of brandy? Do you drink any of it?
No, sir, it all goes down his throat.
Then he is doing himself grave damage.
Oh, I know it, Doctor, but he won't take a telling. And if I don't order the bottles in, he'll order them himself.
It is difficult, I know, but in the end it will make no difference. The damage is already done. You do realise, Lady Scratchard, that you should prepare yourself
Yes, please, Doctor, please. I do know it, but I do not want to hear you say it.
Of course.
The only bright news he's had in weeks was when he heard that Moffat had been beaten up outside his club. He enjoyed that.
It sounded shocking. A horsewhip, they say.
That's right. Whoever done it wanted to hurt him.
All I can say, Frank, is that you are very fortunate.
He was never going to report me. He's too ashamed.
If Moffat had pressed charges, you would be in very serious trouble now.
I knew he wouldn't do that. Because once people knew why he was punished, he'd be exposed as a liar, a cheat, and a philanderer.
All right. I've said enough.
Is that why you wanted to see me, Father? To tell me off about Moffat?
No, Frank. I wish that were all. Have a seat. Would you like a cigar?
It's not a habit I picked up yet.
6 fine cigars, a gift from my friend, the doctor. I think he feels pity for me.
Pity? Why?
Because people do feel pity for the destitute.
Destitute? You are hardly that, Father.
Oh, it's closer than you think, my son. Dr. Thorne has been going through the books with me, and the estate is in peril. I fear we shall have to sell off some more land, perhaps one of the farms.
I'm sorry, Father.
No, I'm sorry for you, Frank. Sorry to leave you such a grim inheritance.
I don't care, Father. I mean, I do care on your account, of course, and Mother's, but I do not care myself about inheritance. I am studying hard at Cambridge. I can work for my living if I need to.
This should be your work, the maintenance of the Greshambury estate, and I have made that very difficult for you. Your mother is right, Frank.
Oh, not this again.
I know you don't want to hear it, and I know it's my fault that you're in this predicament, but our financial troubles give you a responsibility in your choice of whom to marry.
I don't want to hear it. What I want to know is where Mary Thorne is living now that my mother's forced her into exile.
Frank, you're young. You're letting your heart rule your head.
The rashness of youth. Is that what you think of my love for Mary? If it is, then I will prove you wrong, Father.
Scratchard. Scratchard. Press my hand if you can hear me.
Can you feel anything, Doctor?
There is some movement, and he's breathing.
Oh, thank God for those mercies.
Temporary paralysis is not unusual at this stage. At least it means he cannot drink at the moment.
Shall I take away the bottles?
Yes, remove the bottles from the room, then if he wakes up and wants a drink, he'll have to call you.
I shall do that, sir.
And Lady Scratchard,
Yes, Doctor.
I think you should send for your son, Louis, now.
I did, sir. I did send for Louis a week ago, but he said he had business to finish in Paris. He's on his way now.
Uncle, what a lovely surprise.
Shall I ask Mrs. Baxter to set another place, Dr. Thorne?
No, I'm not staying. I just wanted a word with Mary, if I may.
Of course. I'll go and distract my brother. It seems he's desperate to get away from the desk for a while.
What is it, Uncle? Has something happened?
Nothing new. At least, nothing but a new resolution in my heart.
Oh?
Yes. A resolution not to have our lives ruled by Lady Arabella Gresham and her like. I was with Roger Scratchard earlier. The poor man's on his deathbed.
Oh, I'm sorry.
He was heading that way, whatever happened. But he's taken to the bottle again this week because of this appeal against the election result. It seems that he's about to be defeated again by the landed gentry.
Moffat isn't gentry.
No, but he's their favoured candidate, and they'll make sure he wins his appeal. I realised last night why men like Scratchard take to drink. Throughout his life, he has worked hard, lived his values, which are better values than most, I might add, and tried to impress people. He's made a fortune, and he's got a title, but they still detest him. They need him because he understands the railways better than anyone, but they would never entertain him at their tables, nor count him as an equal.
It's a sorry tale, but I don't see the connection with us and the Greshams.
Don't you, Mary? The point is that if we let Lady Arabella Gresham dictate who you may or may not consort with, where you may walk, where you may visit, even where you may live, then we are giving way to the same malign powers that are destroying Roger Scratchard.
I am not giving way to her. But it will not help anyone for me to make an enemy of her.
If you agree to live here in exile because our house is too close to Greshambury Hall, then you are giving way to her.
No, Uncle. You must trust me. I am very happy to stay here for the time being. Patience is a good friend, and Mrs. Baxter makes sure I'm warm and well fed. I shall be back to our home before long, but it is easier for me to meet Frank here.
You intend to meet him?
If Frank wants to pay me a visit, then Patience will arrange it.
Louis? Louis, is that really you?
No, Pop, it's Marie Antoinette. Of course it's me.
My boy, my boy.
Careful, Father, careful. Lie back now. You must rest up, then you'll be right as a trivet in a day or two.
Much better for seeing you, my boy. Is this the kind of finery you young gents wear in London?
Oh, this? No, I picked up in Paris, actually. I've got a wardrobe full of them. A man's wardrobe stands or falls by its variety. A blade about town cannot be seen in the same garb twice.
I'm sure of it. And whatever the finest young men have, you too shall have it.
Well, since you mention it, I am a touch impecunious at the present time.
What's that, my boy?
I could do with a little more money.
Of course. It shall be done. Now, tell me, how long will you be with us here at Boxall Hill?
I'll be here a few weeks, Pop. But I was hoping for a bit of a rest cure, actually. Not been in my finest fettle lately.
Yes. The whites of your eyes are like egg yolks.
Yeah, don't exaggerate, Father.
Please tell me you've not been on the brandy again. We paid for you to go to Eton and Cambridge.
Yes, I've heard all this.
Yes, we paid for an education to set your mind on higher things, so you wouldn't follow your old man down the neck of a bottle.
Well, it's a better class of bottle than yours. Curacao, maraschino and cherry bounce, they're my poisons.
Oh, Louis.
Oh, pish, Father, I'm not letting drink get a hold of me. I'm a young man in me prime. I like to enjoy myself. What's the harm in taking the odd tipple?
Mary, is he here?
Why are you whispering?
I don't know.
Caleb was out until late.
I know. I'm getting carried away with the subterfuge.
So where is he then?
I'm here.
Would you young folk like some tea?
I'll go and tell her what's going on.
Is that wise?
Oh, we can trust Mrs. Baxter.
How many times in rooms at Cambridge have I thought and dreamt and longed for this moment?
You look very... well.
As do you. As beautiful as ever.
Thank you.
Why wouldn't you meet me sooner? I mean, I've been home for ages.
I'm forbidden to meet you.
By whom?
Guess.
You shouldn't take any notice of my mother's threats. I don't.
I've been hearing rumours about you.
Oh. Well, what sort of rumours?
That you've been up to no good in London.
That. Yes, well, he deserved it.
Did you really horsewhip him?
More like a pony whip. I was holding back a bit.
Poor Mr. Moffat. I'm shocked, Frank. I never saw you as a violent man.
Not violent, Mary. But I am not afraid to act when it is clear what needs to be done.
Are you not afraid tonight? Defying your mother is a dangerous act.
Do you think she'll have me horsewhipped?
At the very least.
It's worth it. To be in the same room as you. To breathe the same air. I have missed you more than I can say, Mary.
Don't. Frank.
Don't what?
Don't talk like that.
Didn't you miss me?
Of course I did. But the more we talk like that, the harder it is to come back.
Now, why do we need to come back?
Because it can never happen, can it? Your family is against it. The world is against it. I have longed to see you. I have known you all my life, and I cannot lose you now. But we must be close friends, and nothing more.
Mary, I will not accept that.
Are you in pain?
It is not good.
You've had attacks like this before.
Don't spare me, Doctor. We both know this is worse than ever.
It is true.
I'm on my deathbed, aren't I, Thorne?
I fear you are, Sir Roger. Shall I call the Reverend Oriole?
Not yet. I have something to ask you.
Oh, yes.
It's Louis. I'm worried about him. He's drinking again.
How much?
Too much. He's been at it all day and he's out cold in his bed now. But that's his life. He's young, but he's drinking more than I was at his age.
I'm sorry.
Yes. Well, I won't be around to try to pull him back from the brink, but you will.
Be assured that I will attend to him as I have attended to you.
I want you to be more than his doctor. I want you to be his guardian.
But what about Mrs. Scratchers?
She is too soft on him. He needs a firm hand, or he will follow me into the grave.
Well, I'm not sure.
You are already my executor and the trustee of the estate. I should be eternally grateful if you would be Louis's guardian as well.
Very well. I promise you that I will do all I can for him.
But there is one wish I have for Louis. One thing that would save him. I should like him to find a wife.
Well, there's not much I can do about that.
Oh, I should say there is.
How?
I should die a happy man if I knew that Louis would marry your Mary.
But that's impossible.
I don't see that it is.
They are cousins, for one thing.
So like half of Barsetshire.
And Mary's hand is not mine to give.
I'm sure you can persuade her that my Louis would be a perfect match. He's highly educated, wears the finest clothes, has more money than he could ever spend.
I do not want Mary to give up her happiness to save Louis.
Then perhaps I do not want Mary to be named in my will.
No, sit back. Oh, sit back. Now breathe slowly. Slowly. Mrs. Scratcher, come quickly. Take his hand. He needs you now.
Oh, Roger, my poor love.
My Reverend Oriel was called, and within an hour, Sir Roger Scratchard was gone. God rest his soul. The funeral is a beautiful occasion. An ice-sharp, bitter afternoon in the graveyard, and around the grave is poor Mrs. Scratchard, wailing like a ghost for the man she truly loved. Louis looking lost and far from sober. Dr. Thorne with a supportive arm around Mary, who surprises herself with tears for this man she'd never met, with not a clue she's lost an uncle. Beyond that, no one. So, old Scratchard was right. You can build England's railways, earn a fortune, get a knighthood, run for Parliament, and still be such a commoner that none of the earls, dukes, ministers and judges will show up for your funeral. Still, back at Boxall Hill, after they buried him, that small band of mourners eats and drinks his health, until, with just his widow, son, and doctor left, the old man's will is opened and read by his executor.
So that's it?
That is it.
You are to be my guardian and trustee of my funds until I'm 25.
Those were your father's wishes.
Well, it's a bloody slap in the face. Does he not trust me?
Don't speak ill of your father, Louis. He just wanted what's best for you.
By keeping me from my legitimate inheritance?
You and I shall be amply provided for, Louis. We shall want for nothing.
It is my duty to make sure of that.
Well, I think it's a rum and sorry pity.
I also need to tell you what your father said should happen to the estate should you die before the age of 25.
Stop. No more morbid talk. Once you're dead, you're dead. Who cares? I shall not die. Where's my cherry bounce?
Frank, sit down.
I think I might.
So?
So what?
Is it true?
Is what true, Mother?
Is it true that you went to see that Thorne girl?
I may have done so. I can see who I wish to see.
Did Patience Oriel set this up? I never trusted that girl.
What are you talking about? He didn't need any setting up. I simply went to see Mary.
How dare you, Frank? I expressly forbid you to see that girl again.
What do you have against her?
She will bring down this family if she gets her way.
Oh, don't be ridiculous, Mother. You're ranting like a madwoman.
Ranting? Is it ranting to warn you of the peril you are in? If you fail to marry money, all this will be lost. Look at that Venetian bowl. Do you know its history?
What are you talking about?
That bowl was bought in Rimini by your great-great-great-grandfather. It has been on that side table since he brought it home and placed it there, and every generation of Greshams has treasured it. But now, because of your dalliance with some village filly, you risk that bowl and all the treasures of this house being spirited away in lieu of debt. It is a terrible betrayal of the Gresham name.
Have you finished, Mother?
I have spoken, yes. Now give me your word that you will never see that girl again.
I will not give you my word, because I shall see her again. In fact, it is my deepest wish that I should make her my wife. If you are asking me to choose between Mary Thorne and a Venetian bowl, then I can give you my answer now.
Frank, have you gone mad?
I am embarrassed, Lady Arabella. If you had given me some warning, I would have had the house tidied.
No, I shall not be staying long. I come to you with a matter of the greatest urgency and importance. The Greshambury estate is facing a very grave threat, and I look to you in the desperate hope that you will help me to face it down.
My goodness, what kind of threat?
Your niece, Dr. Thorne.
My Mary? A grave threat? I'm afraid you will have to explain that to me.
Isn't it obvious?
Not to me.
That girl is throwing herself at Frank, and he is too young and foolish to know how to deal with it. I have to protect him from her.
I beg your pardon. My niece would no more throw herself at any man than you would.
Well, you are very naive if you can't see it.
What would you say if I came up to Greshambury and spoke of your daughter Augusta in such a fashion?
Oh, don't be ridiculous.
You would tell me to go back to my home and stop insulting other people and meddling in their affairs.
Patience Oriel is part of this plot too.
Plot? Lady Arabella, you are in the grip of some madness.
I want your Mary to cut off all future contact with Patience Oriel.
You have no right to interfere with the lives of Mary or Patience.
I have every right to protect my son from being entrapped by the wrong woman.
The wrong woman? Your son should hope and pray that he may one day be worthy of marriage to Mary Thorne.
Frank has Gresham and de Courcy blood in his veins. He cannot just marry some little village girl.
So your son's blood is too good for Mary?
You are forcing me to be blunt. Mary is not of Frank's class.
You ridiculous woman! You have ruined your husband's life, and now you're trying to ruin your son's life. But you will not do anything to threaten my niece. Now, get out of my house!
I have never been treated so disrespectfully. I bid you good day, Dr. Thorne.
Father, it's not like you to take an interest in the horses.
Which is the best hunter, Frank?
The bay here. He's so agile. Hardest job is staying on board.
It's a fine beast.
What, do you want to get a brush and help me?
No, thank you. Listen, Frank, I wondered if you'd go up to London for a week or two.
Really? Why?
We need to get copies of all the loan paperwork now old Scratchhead has gone. His son wants to see the extent of our debts to him.
Oh dear.
Yes. And it would be no bad thing for you to get to know the fellows at the bank. They'll be looking after your affairs in due course.
Very well. If you'd like me to. But a couple of weeks seems like a long time for that.
Yes. Well, I think it would be politic to get you out of Greshambury for a while. Your mother's on the warpath again.
Oh, Lord. Not again.
I'm afraid so. But she's right to be concerned, Frank. You know, I'm concerned, too, about how you would live without money.
It's ridiculous. Mother has lost all reason. She hears the name Mary Thorne and turns into a banshee.
I do accept that your mother is losing perspective. The Venetian bowl didn't help.
Sorry, Father. Lost my temper.
There's too much temper in this house at the moment. If we get you out of the firing line for a couple of weeks, then things will calm down and we can discuss it properly.
Well, how did she find out?
Lady Arabella has spies everywhere.
Oh, don't be melodramatic, Patience.
I don't know how she found out. I'm sure Frank didn't tell her.
Oh, this is such a crime. To meet and talk after months apart.
To her, it's a very serious crime.
I can't believe she sent Frank off to London. Exile again.
She's very determined.
Oh, Patience. Sooner or later, Frank will give up on me. Won't he?
I thought you'd given up on him. You said it was all impossible.
Yes, I did say that. And hearing myself say it made me realise how much I love him.
Oh, I thought you did. I never quite believed you could walk away.
We can choose what we do, Patience, but we are powerless to choose what we feel. If I truly and unshakably love Frank Gresham, then there is no point in trying to deceive myself. nor you. You know me too well.
But if it's impossible, then...
Frank says he doesn't care what his family thinks.
And that's easy to say. But how long can he resist all this opposition?
He's strong and determined, Patience. I don't know. I feel it's all I ever think about. Day and night.
Oh, that's not healthy, Mary. I must distract you. Look, Christmas ribbons. Let's buy some for the vicarage.
That would be lovely.
I've sent Frank up to get copies of all the loan papers. Will that satisfy him?
I will make sure it does. Louis is drunk half the time anyway. But when he's lucid, he's a less generous lender than his father was.
That's a pity. I never thought I'd miss old Scratchard.
He was a good man.
And how is Mary?
She's chosen to stay at the vicarage a little longer. Not because of your wife's warnings, I hasten to add, but because she wants to lead a quieter life for a while.
I can understand that. The town is full of gossip.
I have heard it.
She's throwing herself at Frank, or Frank's throwing himself at her, or they're just about to elope together. It's all just idle talk. I'm pretty sanguine about it, but Arabella is not.
I know. She called here the other day to tell me that Mary should stop seeing Patience.
Oh, I'm sorry, Thorne. She's gone a bit mad with all this. She's got the vapours. But I ought to warn you that she's threatening to confront Mary directly.
That would be most unfortunate.
I'm just warning you. She knows that Mary is staying with the Orioles.
Confounded woman. Mary will not be chased from house to house by her.
Oh, calm down, Thorne. I know what she's like. She will say anything to undermine Mary. I strongly advise you to move the girl until things settle down.
It is madness. I will not let her upset Mary.
But you'll not be there to stop her, Thorne. You spend most of your time out on calls. Trust me, your best course of action is to move Mary away for a while.
You're probably right. I'll ask Lady Scratchard to take her in for a week or two. Well, she's wanted to visit Boxall Hill for a while, and it would be good for Lady S to have a guest to take her mind off things.
Well, Arabella won't come and find her at Boxall Hill, that's for sure. She thinks the Scratchards are a bunch of savages.
Dr. Thorne does take Mary to Boxall Hill, and Lady Scratchard takes to her like a daughter. To the delight of both of them, they find they have a mutual love of young Frank Gresham. 20 years ago, plain Mrs. Scratchard, as she was then, served at Greshambury Hall as Frank's wet nurse, while her ladyship was, well, being ladylike. So to Mrs. S., young Frank Gresham is as much her son as her own flesh and blood Louis. Not that she's seen Frank for years, because his mother doesn't encourage it. But having young Mary at Boxall is a double honour. A shared love of Frank and the secret knowledge, sworn to secrecy by Dr. Thorne, that Mary is her late husband's niece.
That's it, my dear. As many of the fat ones as you can reach, but don't cut your fingers.
Oh, ouch! Too late.
We should have fetched gloves for you. I've been berry picking so long my hands are as tough as leather.
It is so beautiful here. You're very kind to let me stay.
Oh, my dear Mary, it is my pleasure. We don't have much family left, so it means a great deal.
Family? Oh, I am touched that you think so much of me, Lady Scratchard, but I am not quite that, am I?
Well, I meant... Oh, Lord, my dear, I fear I may have said too much.
Is it about my mother? Well, I know that my father was the brother of Dr. Thorne, but I know nothing of my mother.
Well, I think you should ask your uncle about what happened to Mary.
My mother was called Mary too. And was she a relative of yours?
Oh, my dear, I have said far too much.
You see, old man, we are both saddled with mothers who have missed their vocation.
We are certainly saddled, that's for sure. And what is their vocation?
Well, they were born to be despots of small countries, the terrible sisters ruling their frightened populations with a rod of iron.
But instead they take it out on us.
Yes, you are Lady Arabella's surrogate state. She can't rule a whole country, so she's ruling you instead.
Only if I let her.
But, Frank, you are letting her.
I haven't noticed you standing up to the dreaded Countess, George.
Oh, well, she thinks I've got such pure de Courcy blood that I'm incapable of doing anything other than my duty.
Gosh, she really doesn't know you, does she?
Why do you think I spend all my time here, in London?
Why do you say I'm letting my mother rule me?
Because if you weren't, you'd go straight to Mary now, bold as brass, no secrecy, and you'd just tell her that you love her. And you'll marry her, whatever the bloody Greshams and de Courcys think.
I'm sorry you have to see him like this. It will pass, but he has to stop drinking, or he'll end up like his father.
Oh, Lord forbid it, Doctor. I cannot lose my Louis as well as my Roger. A woman can only take so much grief.
You haven't lost him yet.
And bring the music as well. Get it in here, it doesn't really matter.
But if, between us, we cannot keep him off the curacao and cherry bounce, then I will not vouch for his chances of living another year.
Oh, my Lord, no. He's young and strong, Doctor. Doesn't that give him some hope?
I'm sorry to say that he has his father's vice in full form, Lady Scratchard, but as his doctor I can tell you that he lacks his father's constitution. Sir Roger was as strong as an ox. Louis will not last half as long.
Sur le pont d'Avignon, la la la. And bring in the cherry bounce. Where's it got?
Lady Scratchard, when Louis comes through this delirium, we must present a strong front together and warn him of the peril he is in.
He won't listen to me warning him, Doctor.
We shall do it together, and he will listen.
I shall try, Doctor.
If it's a parishioner needing to see me, show them to the parlour.
I shall, sir. Oh, Mr. Gresham, sir. Come in.
Who is it, Mrs. Baxter?
It's me, Mr. Oriel, Frank Gresham. I'm here to see Mary.
Reverend Oriel and patients were just eating dinner, sir. Would you like to join them?
Oh, no, please don't go to any trouble.
Frank, this is an unexpected pleasure.
Would you like to join us for dinner, Frank?
No, I cannot, Patience, thank you. I'm just back from 2 weeks in London and came straight here to talk to Mary.
I'm afraid she's not here, Frank.
Oh, no. Where is she? Back at her uncle's house?
It might be best to stay away from Mary for the present, Frank. Feelings seem to be running rather high in this matter.
Whose feelings?
Well, Lady Arabella seems to be particularly concerned.
My mother's feelings on the matter are of no interest to me.
I realise that you have strong feelings too, Frank, but in the interests of continued harmony...
Frank does not need to hear such advice, Caleb. He is well aware of his mother's feelings.
I am merely trying to avoid a conflagration.
I do not fear a conflagration, Mr. Oriel, and I do not fear whatever may befall the Greshambury estate. I fear one thing, and one thing alone. Losing Mary.
She loves you, Frank. You know that.
Yeah, but if she starts to believe what my mother wants her to believe, that we can never marry, then I may lose her, and I cannot live with that fear.
Be patient, Frank. You're both young.
I have been patient enough. I will not risk losing Mary to appease my mother. But please, tell me where she is.
Go home to Greshambury tonight, Frank.
If you won't tell me, I shall assume that she's at her uncle's house, and I shall go there now.
She's staying at Boxall Hill.
With the Scratchards?
Yes. Dr. Thorne hoped that your mother would not find Mary there, and even if she found her, she would stay away.
Then I must go there.
Oh, Frank, please, do not go tonight. Wait a few days.
Why?
I will get a message to Mary to say you are back and that you will visit within a week.
The doctor has been working with Louis Scratchard to save him from the bottle. He's been sober now for days, but he needs calm and consistency.
So if I visit the girl I love, Louis Scratchard will die of drink? Is that really what you're saying?
No, Frank. All Caleb is saying is that you should be calm. Be patient. Mary will still be there later in the week. You can visit in the afternoon when it will be less disruptive to Louis. And I can tell them you'll be coming, so it doesn't come as a shock.
I suppose it is rather late now.
It is too late tonight. Let me prepare the way, Frank. Go home and sleep.
Very well. I am tired.
Your parents will be worried about you. That train got in an hour ago.
I shall go, but please, tell Mary I love her, and I shall see her within a week.
I will.
So I sat for hours while he worked on this portrait, and then he turned it round with a flourish, and it didn't look anything like me. It looked, if anything, like a young Napoleon Bonaparte.
Oh, you were tall and blonde.
It wasn't even approaching a likeness.
What did you say?
Well, I remembered my manners as an Englishman, and I simply said, It's not quite what I was expecting. But he took umbrage. I am one of the most sought-after portraitists in all of Paris, sir. And the gallery along the Champs-Élysées are full of my paintings.
Well, did you buy it?
Well, I'd no choice by then. He'd spent days on it, and I'd given him the commission, so I thought I'd better honour it. Didn't want the poor soul to starve in his garret.
Oh, let's see the painting. I'd love to see it.
It's at the London house. I hang it high up on the staircase where no visitor will see it. I'll take you to the opera in town next month, and then you'll see it.
I've never seen an opera. Well, do you go often?
Oh, I saw a lot of opera in Paris and Milan, but it can be dreadful. You have to pick and choose.
So that poor artist,
Yes, Mother?
was he just having a bad day, or were all his portraits so awful?
Well, the following day I went to the Champs-Élysées and did a tour of the galleries, as he had suggested.
Oh, let me guess. There were no paintings at all by him in any of the galleries.
Wrong, Mary. There were lots and lots of portraits.
Oh, so he was famous?
Well, apparently so, but every single portrait looked like Napoleon Bonaparte.
Well, then why did people buy him?
I can only assume that his Parisian clients thought it the height of flattery to commission a portrait and find that it depicts them as the spitting image of the great general.
Oh, but it didn't work for an Englishman.
It did not.
Oh, Louis, it's such a joy to have you back.
This is my home, Mother. I shall always return in the end.
No, Louis. I mean to have you back, in yourself, not looking through the bottom of a bottle.
Ah, yes. Well, I feel the better for it too. And if I'm to inherit this estate, I'll need to have my wits about me. Papa's been much too sloppy with the paperwork.
Was he? Well, I thought Roger was sharp as a knife on those things.
Yes, maybe not sloppy, just a little too lenient. The Squire of Greshambury's got away with murder on the contracts for those loans.
Well, I don't think the squire would try to cheat you, Louis.
No, not at all. Just too many gentlemen's agreements and too little legal rigour.
Well, you can put it right now, Louis. Now you're back on the straight path.
The straight path of sobriety, Mother? Is that the path you mean? Shall we finish the meal with a brandy to toast my sobriety?
Oh, no, Louis.
I'm teasing you, Mother. I'm as pleased as you to be free of the demon, and I have you and the doctor to thank for it.
We just worried about you, Louis.
But the real driving force behind my sobriety was not Dr. Thorne, but his niece.
Me? Oh, I can't take any credit for that, Louis.
Oh, but you can, Mary, I assure you.
Well, what have I done to deserve this?
Never was there such a motivation for a man to turn his life around as a beautiful, clever young woman.
Oh, my. You should not say such things.
I have spent years behaving like a drunken fool in front of people. But in front of you, Mary, that is the last thing I wish to be.
Frank! Will you take no breakfast?
I'm not hungry.
I should like to talk to you.
I do not share that desire, Mother.
Are you going to her now? Are you going to disobey me again? I forbid you to consort with that girl, Frank! Frank!
You walked here, Louis.
I did indeed. I wanted to take the air.
You do seem a much better colour. I'm impressed.
Yes, I'm feeling like a new man.
I'm delighted at the speed with which your body has regained its strength. You were a sorry sight 2 weeks ago.
Perhaps I'm tougher than I look, eh, Doctor?
So it would seem.
But there is a downside to my new sobriety.
Oh?
Yes, I've been sufficiently lucid of mind to look at my finances. Or rather, the finances I shall inherit from the old man.
You've been reading the accounts, but they're kept at the bank.
Yes. I had them copied and sent up to me. I take it you've no objection.
Well, technically, until you turn 25...
Yes, I know. You are the custodian of the estate until I reach that age. But surely in the meantime it makes good sense for me to study the figures, ask sagacious questions, understand how the land lies.
Well, of course.
I am surprised at the leniency of the terms of our loans to the Greshambury estate. The Squire has received our support on very preferential terms.
Your father had no desire to make life difficult for the Squire.
Well, we may have to tighten things up in due course.
You have no need to worry about finances, Louis. Your father left a fortune such that you could never possibly spend it. You could write off the debts to Greshambury and never notice the loss.
But I have to think of the future, Thorne. I intend before too long to marry, and then I shall have a family to consider.
Oh, that is heartening news, Louis. A young man who wishes to marry is a young man looking responsibly to his future.
Well, my days of carousing are over, Thorne.
And I'm sure that many young ladies would be flattered to think that you might pay them attention.
Oh, there is but one young lady on my mind, Thorne.
Your father said that you were fond of a lady in Paris?
Oh, no. She was a dalliance. The object of my attention now is Miss Mary Thorne.
My Mary? Gosh, well, I'm taken aback, Louis.
Why taken aback? She is a fiercely attractive young woman, Thorne.
Well, I know that to be true, of course. But I hadn't thought of Mary and you.
I am a different proposition now. Back to my old self. And I am very lonely, Thorne.
Oh, I do understand, but I fear that Mary might not see things in quite the same way.
You think that Mary would be appalled at the prospect of a former reprobate like me?
No, I did not say that.
Son of a jumped-up stonemason with ideas above his station.
You are misconstruing my words, Louis.
Well, you don't seem to think your niece would respond with favour to a proposal from my direction.
Well, I'm just a little surprised. That's all. I hadn't imagined the two of you.
Well, perhaps you should start imagining it, because I shouldn't be surprised if Mary responds with favour to my interest. I intend to make my feelings clear to her this very afternoon, and then it is her choice, not yours, nor mine.
Whoa!
Oh, my goodness!
Sorry to startle you, Mrs. Scratchard.
Oh, Mr. Frank, you are a sight for sore eyes and no mistake. Oh, what a fine young man you've grown into, sir.
All down to you, Mrs. S, I'm sure. That nurturing care in my babyhood.
Oh, you were no trouble, Frank. A lovely baby boy you were.
Oh, you will make me blush, Nanny. You don't like that.
Oh, and you still call me Nanny. Oh, Frank. Oh, you are another son to me and ever shall be. Oh, come inside and have some cake. I have just finished baking.
I should love some, but first I must do what I came to do. To talk to Mary Thorne. Is she here, Nanny?
Oh, well, she is down by the orchard, Frank. We lent her a little donkey to trot about on, and she loves that little beast so much.
Then I must go and find her. But I promise to come back and try some of that cake.
Well, no, don't you forget, Frank. I want to hear all your news.
Whoa!
Oh, Frank, you frightened me, riding so fast.
He's our best hunter.
This is my best donkey.
Ah, he's a handsome beast. Shall we walk for a while?
Of course.
Oh, good boy.
The orchard is enchanting in this light, isn't it?
It does look beautiful, but nothing like as beautiful as you, Mary.
I do love this time of year. Mr. Oriel's Sunday sermon told us to enjoy Advent as a season of waiting. But we are not so good at waiting, are we?
I could not wait to see you.
Patience told me you were coming on Friday.
I am tired of having the terms and times of my love for you set by other people. Be it my mother, my father, my aunt, my sister, even Patience.
Oh, Patience is trying to help.
I know. But even she wanted me to stay away for another week.
Well, it is for Louis's sake. Louis needs a calm and settled life just now.
I'm not here to unsettle Louis.
Did you go to the house?
I saw my old nanny, yes. She wants me to call in for cake on the way home.
You should not call in, Frank. Go home and come back on Friday when Louis will be out all day and we can meet as planned. He walked into town this morning, but he'll be back very soon.
No, Friday is too late. I've been letting my mother rule my heart. I refuse to do that anymore. I love you, Mary. I love you to distraction and I want you to be my wife. Mary, have I said something wrong?
No, not wrong.
You feel the same, don't you?
You know I feel. But you know that the world stands against us.
My family is not the world.
It is not just your family, Frank. People will look upon you and I as creatures of different worlds. I am the niece of a village doctor. I never knew my parents. I know almost nothing of them, but I suspect that is because I'm being protected from the truth. And you... You are the scion of Greshambury Manor and Courcy Castle.
That means nothing to me, Mary. Look, give me your hand.
It is a cold hand, I'm sorry.
Look at the lines on your palm. Now look at mine. Count the fingers. Now put your hand in mine, like this.
Like this?
Yes. That's how easily our fingers interweave. There is no difference, Mary. We are the perfect fit.
Oh, Frank.
Hope I'm not interrupting a private moment.
Louis, you came like a ghost.
Perhaps that's what I should be. Being in the world doesn't seem to suit me.
Don't say that, Louis.
I have a message for your companion, Mary. My mother is keen for him to come back to the house and see her. She's very fond of him. And it seems she's not the only one. Perhaps women have a nose for noble blood. His must smell like roses.
Louis? Louis! I'd better go after him. He seems upset.
And so he is upset. In fact, once Louis sees Frank and Mary holding hands in the orchard, gazing into each other's eyes, he decides at once that he cannot declare his own love to Mary. True though it is, and I do believe it. For all his rakish ways, Louis Scatcherd is a man more than capable of love. But he chose the wrong woman, and in despair retires to his room and surrounds himself again, despite his mother's pleas, with bottles of cherry bounce and curacao. Meanwhile, Frank Gresham is in turmoil. He is more sure than ever that Mary returns his love for her, but equally sure that she will never consent to marry if it will turn him against his own family. What is a young man to do?
I shall retire, I think. It's been a long day and my nerves are shot. I shall see you in the morning.
Yes, good night, Arabella. Frank, you won't desert me, will you? Can I tempt you to a cognac?
Yes, Father. I'd like that. In fact, I wanted to talk to you. Alone.
Oh, yes? Are you all right? You've not horsewhipped someone else on the street, have you?
No, nothing like that.
Glad to hear it.
I wanted to tell you that whatever Mother says, I still love Mary Thorne.
I see.
And I believe that she loves me.
And you know that a life of penury awaits you if you do not marry money.
The financial implications are more than clear to me. I spent all last week at the bank in London, remember?
Yes, of course.
But I cannot allow that to keep me from the woman I love.
Certain of this, Frank?
Certain.
Then I must take you into my confidence. There is something about Mary Thorne that you should know before anyone else tells you.
What is it?
Her uncle told me years ago and swore me to secrecy, but if you are to marry her...
Go on.
Mary was born out of wedlock.
I see. Well, that is no fault of hers.
But not just that. She was the product of a drunken encounter between Thorne's brother, Henry...
Never heard of him.
He's dead. A terrible rogue by all accounts. The doctor never speaks of him now.
And who was Mary's mother?
As I said, she was the fruit of a drunken encounter between Henry Thorne and...
And who?
Between him and Roger Scatcherd's younger sister, Mary.
My lord, what? I didn't know Scatcherd had a sister.
Nobody does. She fled to America after having the baby, and Dr. Thorne agreed to raise her as his own.
So did her father drink himself to death?
No. Henry Thorne was murdered. Beaten to death in revenge for destroying that young woman's honour.
Oh, my lord. Who did it?
Scatcherd.
Sir Roger?
Yes. To avenge his sister. Served a prison sentence for it.
So that is why Mary has been told so little about her past.
Yes, her uncle wanted to protect her.
But she must be told now, surely.
That is not down to us.
Well, her uncle must tell her.
And you?
What about me?
How does it affect your thoughts about marriage?
Not in the slightest. How could it possibly make me think any less of Mary? It makes me think more of her, to rise from such terrible beginnings to become so remarkable.
Your heart is set, then?
Yes, of course. Will you help me? I can weather Mother's storms alone, but I cannot convince Mary to go against my whole family. I need you and Mother to acknowledge my love for her.
I will help you, Frank, on one condition.
What is it?
Give me a year.
A year?
Yes. Hear me out. Go away and complete your studies at Cambridge. Try to put marriage out of your mind. If Mary's love for you is as you say it is, a year will not weaken it.
But a year? I mean, it will feel like an eternity. I cannot do it.
Come back to Greshamsbury when you are 22. In the meantime, I will work on your mother, and I'll seek to make things smooth for you on your return.
I swore to myself that I would not dance to Mother's tune any more.
This is not her tune. This is mine. Do this for me, Frank. Think of it as an investment in your future. Give me a year, and you will have your family's backing.
All right. I will do it, if you promise me that the family will accept Mary at the end of it.
I will do all I can.
But if you are hoping I will forget Mary and come back engaged to another, richer woman, then you will be disappointed.
I cannot say I don't wish for that. It would be a relief to see you marry into wealth, to save this place, to save our name. But you're a man now. You must make up your own mind.
Frank, it's you. What are you doing? I thought you were a thief or something.
Shh. I don't want to disturb the house.
Oh, Mrs. Cratchit is baking. She won't hear us.
And Louis?
Poor Louis has his head in a bottle all the time now. Nothing will rouse him. Why are you here? I thought we'd agreed to meet on neutral ground, to be careful.
I'm sick of creeping around, Mary, pretending this is something to be ashamed of.
So what do you suggest we do?
I have struck a deal with my father. I will go and complete my studies at Cambridge, and I shall not return here for a year.
A year? No, why?
They have made me sign a contract to say I will not see you for a year.
Why would you sign it? A year is such a long time.
But if I honour that contract for a year, then I am free to marry the woman I love.
With their support?
Yes, with the blessing of the whole family.
Oh, Frank. Is this the only way? Oh, I'm worried about him. Where will you go?
I will be in Cambridge and London.
Can you write to me?
Of course we must write. And be assured, my darling, that nothing in the world could ever challenge my love for you.
There must be many beautiful young women in Cambridge and London.
I am not interested in them.
Many richer and higher born than me.
You must trust me, Mary. This is the only way.
Barsetshire is very beautiful at this time of year, but we are feeling the bite of winter in Greshamsbury now. Mind you, the fever of young love is enough to keep Mary Thorne warm as she waits for her forbidden lover Frank to come back from his year in exile. Or maybe now it won't be forbidden. If you still love Mary after a year apart, then the whole family will support your marriage. So said the Squire of Greshamsbury to his son 12 months ago. Yes, well, we'll see what Lady Arabella has to say about that. And with Sir Roger Scatcherd dead of the demon drink, God rest his soul, his son Louis in London looks like he's following in his father's unsteady footsteps.
Lady Scatcherd, are you unwell? Do you want to come in?
Oh, Doctor, sir, I shall not keep you, but there is a very urgent matter.
Is it Louis?
Yes, it is Louis, Doctor. My boy's been at the drink again and is in a very sorry way.
I can't say I'm surprised. I fear the drink has a hold on him.
I have people keep an eye on him in London, and I've had terrible reports these last few days.
Is he at your house now? I shall come.
No, sir, no, he's not at Boxall Hill. He's still in London. But I've sent some men to fetch him to bring him here. If he stays in London, he will surely die.
Fetch him here? Are you sure he wants to come to Greshamsbury? He will not be the most welcome visitor threatening to call in those loans to the Greshams.
Indeed, sir, I know it, but I have asked for him to be brought to your house here.
I'm afraid that is impossible.
Without your urgent care, he has no hope.
But this is my home, and Mary will have to...
Oh, Doctor, I should not do this without the gravest fears. I beg of you, sir.
All right, yes. I shall treat him as best I can for a few days only. Then he can come to you at Boxall Hill to recuperate when he is well enough.
He will be on his way, sir, just as soon as my men have caught up with him, and I'm so very, very grateful to you.
I cannot be cross with Uncle. He is doing his duty as a doctor, and I think Louis is in great need.
It's a bit beyond the call of duty to have your patient move in with you, Mary.
His mother thinks he will die without my uncle's care.
Then of course he must do it.
But you know my real worry, Patience.
Frank.
Yes. He'll be back any day now, and there's no love lost there. It will not help Louis's recovery to meet Frank.
I can't believe it's a year since Frank left. It's gone so quickly.
Well, not for me, it hasn't. I have missed him every single moment. But what is it? What was that look for?
I'm sorry?
You won't meet my eye, Patience. I know you too well. What's wrong?
Oh, it's nothing.
I don't believe you.
Just malicious gossip.
Well, what are they saying?
Oh, nothing, Mary.
Don't lie.
It's just that some are saying Frank has not been as lonely as you this last year.
What do you mean?
There's a rumour that he's seeing another woman in London, that's all.
Another woman? That's nonsense.
Yes, I'm sure it is. Just village gossip.
Why is he doing it, Thorne, in the name of all that is decent? I mean, I have been nothing but courteous in my dealings with him. More cognac?
No, thank you. And as your doctor, I ought to dissuade you.
One more cognac won't do me any harm.
That's what Sir Roger Scratchard said.
You see, he was a decent man. Rough-hewn piece of stone, oh yes, but a good one.
I'd like the man.
But his bloody son... Sorry for my language, Thorne, but he's barely out of nursery, and look, driving up interest rates, demanding securities, making threats.
It's all talk, old man. He has no legal right to change the terms of any loans until he turns 25.
In a year. A year.
Plenty can change in a year. And besides, he's in no fit state to carry out any threats.
What's wrong with him?
His father's malady. The bottle. He's going to be in my care for a while.
He's coming to Greshamsbury?
He's coming as a patient. You have nothing to worry about.
Haven't I? My Frank is coming home this week. I had promised Arabella that I'd sort out the loans, fix better terms, steady the ship, ready to hand it over to the boy.
Frank will understand.
I've let him down, Thorne. The Gresham estate is a sinking ship.
I do feel for the squire. He's not a bad man, but he's got about as much business sense as my winter hat, which is a very lovely hat, by the way, primped as it is with posies and plumes. It gets many admiring glances in the street. But my hat could not run a country estate, and nor can poor Squire Gresham. Especially not since Louis Scratchard has been tightening the screws on him. It's young Frank I feel sorry for, heading back from his year away, ready to marry his Mary and take over the estate. Mind you, from what I hear, he's not spent the months in London sobbing in a darkened room. There's a lot of gossip about that boy, and I gather he's found himself some diversions.
And all you other men just watched?
No. We put wagers on. We drank and shouted and howled for our man to triumph.
It sounds horrible, Frank.
It was noble, Martha.
What pleasure could there be in watching that?
It's raw. The life force at its most intense.
Is that what Cambridge did for you, Frank? You used to be such a sweet young man, and now you use classical references to explain your love of illegal street fights. How about some more of that claret? Shall I order another?
Let me. Waiter. Waiter!
What's this? Is it unseemly for a lady to speak to a waiter?
Another bottle of the claret, please.
Are you afraid the waiter will seduce me? He does have a certain swarthy charm. Are you worried for my honour?
Far from it, Martha. I'm worried for the poor waiter. Who would have him for breakfast?
Frank, how could you? What a terrible stain on my reputation.
So what will you do to restore it?
I shall take you to the opera. After bare-knuckle fighting, you need some culture.
Well, I should like that very much.
I have 2 tickets for Covent Garden.
Oh, when?
First Saturday of next month. A visiting company from Italy. Wonderful, I hear.
Mr. Gresham! Fancy chancing upon you so many miles from home.
Louis, gosh. How are you? It's been ages.
About a year, I'd say. And perhaps you would introduce me to your ravishing companion.
Of course. This is my friend, Miss Dunstable.
Good evening.
And this is Sir Louis Scratchard.
I am enchanted to meet you, Miss Dunstable. You are a lucky man, Mr. Gresham, to have a friend such as this. And I couldn't help but hear that a trip to the opera is in the offing. How delightful.
For Louis Scratchard, meeting Frank Gresham with Miss Dunstable was too good a chance to miss. He has never forgiven young Frank for stealing the heart of Mary Thorne right under Louis's nose. And the moment he chanced upon them in that restaurant, he saw an opportunity to make some trouble. Mind you, he is in some deal of trouble of his own. So, within a day of that encounter in the restaurant, his mother's hired men caught up with him.
Unhand me! Who in that name?
Take him straight upstairs. We have a bed prepared.
Am I being abducted?
No, you are being saved.
My mother is a tyrant!
No, your mother is a saint.
Get off me!
Mary! An unexpected pleasure.
I was sorry to hear you were ill, Louis. I've chosen some books you might find diverting.
Oh, well, that is very kind of you.
I put them on your bedside stand.
You are the very cure I needed, Mary. I'm feeling better already.
Frank! Frank, is that you?
Mary. Yes, it's me.
Oh, thank goodness. I'm more scared than I thought I would be.
Scared? Why?
Well, I'm not used to sneaking through the woods at night. I thought your father's men might see me and set the dogs on me.
What dogs? He's had to sell the dogs.
Oh, dear.
I knew you would find this tree. See?
No, I can't see.
Give me your hand.
Oh, our initials.
Do you remember? At my 21st party.
Of course I remember.
I had to see you.
When did you get back?
Just this evening. But I needed to talk to you.
Oh, Frank. This last year, it's been...
I know. I've thought about you night and day. Tomorrow I shall tell my father that I still intend to marry you. But I need to know that you still want that too.
Oh, Frank, don't kneel. You'll ruin your clothes.
Mary, I am not a child anymore. I know my mind and my heart, and I love you. I will never again let other people drive me from my purpose.
Oh, Frank.
Mary, will you marry me?
I don't know.
You do not love me.
Of course I love you. More than I can possibly say.
Well then.
There have been rumours. Well, silly rumours, I'm sure.
What rumours?
That you were seeing another woman in London.
No. Mary, you must know that I am yours. Completely and finally.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I do know.
You're going to keep me kneeling here forever.
Of course I want to be with you.
Is that a yes?
Yes. Finally and completely, yes. And nothing they can say will shake me.
How are you feeling this morning? I didn't hear you in the night, so I'm hoping you slept well.
Thank you, yes. Fewer terrors and more dreams.
That'll be the sedative I gave you. I shall keep you on it for another few nights.
Some very colourful dreams, in fact. I may have to get myself a few cases of that sedative. Does it come in large measures?
I think you should try to avoid things in bottles.
Where is Mary?
I have no idea. She has her own life.
You'd be very lonely without her, wouldn't you, Thorne? If she finds herself a man.
It is not appropriate for us to discuss Mary's future.
Oh, she's a fine-looking woman, Thorne. I'd like to renew my acquaintance with her while I'm here.
I thought you tried that before.
Oh, I didn't try hard enough. Didn't turn on the full charm. Worked a treat on many young fillies in Paris, I can tell you.
You are very welcome to the use of my house as long as your condition dictates that I should care for you here. But I must insist that my niece shall not be troubled.
Do You mean she's already promised to that Gresham fella?
Sir Louis, I can forgive you much for your father's sake and on the score of your own ill health, but you ought to know that there are some things which a man cannot forgive. I will not talk to you about my niece, and I will not have her troubled by you.
The day after those lovebirds met in the woods of Gresham Hall, Louis Scatcherd is moved back to his mother's house at Boxall Hill. Dr. Thorne really picked up the young drunk in those few days at his house, and he got a bit of colour back in his cheeks. But as soon as he's home, he hits the bottle harder than ever. Or rather, bottles. Blue ones and red ones and green ones. He has much fancier poisons than his old man did. But they do the same job. He's drinking himself into the grave and doesn't seem to care that's where he's heading. Less than a week back at Boxall Hill and he's worse than ever. But that doesn't stop him stumbling downstairs when young Mary calls in to drop off his medicines.
So when does he take that one?
This one every evening before his dinner.
Right. Well, he barely eats dinner these days, Miss Mary.
Well, he must eat. My uncle said it's vital that he shouldn't miss meals.
Oh, Louis!
What an unexpected delight.
Miss Mary has come on her uncle's errand to bring you your medicines, Louis.
Oh, well, she is a tonic in herself.
And she says you must eat properly.
Oh, I've no appetite for food.
Well, you should try to eat, Louis.
Why? Are you worried about me, Mary?
Yes, of course. I mean, we all are.
Is there a special place in your heart for me?
Louis, leave the young lady alone.
Oh, she doesn't seem to mind when Frank Gresham says such things to her.
I'd better be getting home.
Oh, don't leave on my account. And how is young Frank? Home from London, I gather?
Yes, so I believe.
I happened to bump into him the other day in town. Did he mention it?
No. I mean, I haven't seen him yet.
How strange. Or perhaps it isn't.
I shall bring the next batch of medicines next week.
Does the name Miss Martha Dunstable mean anything to you, Miss Thorne?
Miss Dunstable? Well, why do you ask?
Oh, it's probably totally innocent. After all, a young unmarried man about town can enjoy the company of whomever he chooses, can he not?
I must get home.
Thank you, Miss Mary. And do please give my thanks to the good doctor.
Sit down, Frank. Sit down. You have no idea how good it is to have you back in the house. Coffee?
Yes, please. And I brought you something from London.
Mm-hmm.
Cuban. Imported by a friend of mine.
Oh, Frank, you know how to warm your father's heart. I don't know when I last lit a fine cigar.
Got one for myself as well.
Hmm?
May I take a light?
Of course, my boy. You have the seat by the fire. Mm. Oh. Now, you must tell me about your year in London. I seized upon your letters with great interest, of course, but it's not the same as having here in front of me.
I have learnt a lot this year, Father, about the world and about myself. I feel I have grown up.
I'm sure you have, my boy. There is much to pique a young man's interest in that city, I know it. But I don't expect you to give me all the details.
There is one thing I know more surely than ever before.
What's that? Not to drink before breakfast?
That I am utterly, totally, unshakably in love with Mary Thorne, and that I wish to make her my wife.
I see.
You were hoping for a different answer.
I would be lying if I said no. Please, don't do anything rash, Frank.
Rash? Father, I've been in love with Mary since I first set eyes on her. You asked me to go away for 12 months, and I have done so. You asked me to take stock, to think about my future, to live a little, and I have done so. But throughout it all, my heart has been sure. I have waited long enough. I met Mary last night and made my pledge to her. We are engaged to be married.
I see. Well, I can say no more to you. I have destroyed the estate which should have been yours, and I have no right to expect you to regard what I say.
Of course I regard what you say.
What will you live on, Frank? Mud? Water?
I will earn my living, Father. I can work. I have a Cambridge degree.
You are the heir of Greshamsbury.
So what?
You have duties here.
So give me a farm.
You've been thinking about this.
Give me a farm and I will make it pay. You have 3 farms on the estate. Allow me to make a living from one of them.
What do you know about farming? Are you proposing to plough the fields yourself, to tend the flocks? Will you be out in the fields with your shepherd's crook?
If needs be, yes.
Oh, Frank. I wonder what you think of me.
Think of you?
Do you hate me for having ruined you like this?
Ruined me?
Lost you your rightful inheritance?
Of course not, Father. How can you speak so cruelly of yourself?
I do not deserve so fine and forgiving a son.
I will hear no more of this. I am honoured to say you are my father.
My boy.
So, will you talk to Mother about our engagement?
I will do my best, Frank. That's all I can promise.
Lord, you're here, Doctor.
I came as soon as I got your message. It's your heart again, is it?
Yes, Doctor, it is racing, racing.
Lie back and let me listen to it. You will have to adjust your clothing, Lady Arabella, or I won't be able to listen.
Yes, of course, Doctor. Can you hear it?
Yes, I can. It is certainly faster than it should be. You were right to call me.
Oh, dear, I knew it. I've been under such strain this last week.
A few days' rest, and I shall give you something to take to help calm your nerves.
Oh, thank you, Doctor. Following our unfortunate last meeting and your intemperate words to me...
Yes, I'm sorry about that. I should have kept my temper.
I have been dealing with Dr. Filgrave instead, but I'm afraid he simply doesn't fill your shoes.
Attending to your health is nothing more than my duty, Lady Arabella. Take a spoonful of this before each meal. I shall call back on Thursday.
Before you rush off, Doctor, I know you must be fearfully busy.
I am.
But I have been meaning to tell you how distressed we have been by our estrangement from your dear niece, Mary.
It is most unfortunate, yes.
I was wondering if we could perhaps change that situation, Doctor. My daughter Augusta is courting another young man now, and I think we were mistaken with the previous wedding plans to rule out Mary as a bridesmaid. Do you think she might consent to acting as a bridesmaid at a future wedding?
I cannot speak for my niece, Lady Arabella, but I'm sure she would consider it if proper amends were made.
Amends? For what?
You said some very unpleasant things about her.
Oh, you cannot wonder that we should be anxious about Frank, our only son, and the heir to an estate that has been so very long in the family. Oh, Doctor, I'm sorry for such a display of weakness, but I'm so worried about my son. And I wish, more than anything, that you could tell me what your views are in private here, between ourselves. You will not find me unreasonable.
My views?
Yeah, about your niece, Doctor.
About Mary?
I hear from my husband that she and Frank are determined to marry. Can I count on you to ensure that these two young people do not do anything rash? If you give me your word, then I'm sure we could all be so happy together again.
Ah, but who can say what rash things a young man like Frank will do? He seems very strong-minded.
But he cannot do rash things if Mary refuses him.
Lady Arabella, if you expect me to tell my niece how to respond to any advances your son may make to her, then you do not know me at all.
I had hoped that you would understand my position.
Did you really think that you could summon me here, offer Mary a bridesmaid's role as a sop, and buy me into your plan to stop her meeting your son? Well, you are much mistaken. Good day.
I just don't know, Patience.
Didn't you ask him when you met him in the woods the other night?
Oh, of course I did.
And what did he say?
He said there could never be another woman, that he loved only me.
Oh, well then.
But then Louis started crowing about this Martha Dunstable.
And you believed him?
Well, I didn't know whether to believe him or not. I'd like to disbelieve him.
Well, then why don't you?
Because Frank is a handsome, rich, titled and unmarried young man. I'm sure he didn't go 12 months in London without women fluttering their eyelashes at him.
Well, that's true, but it's what he did about it that matters, not what those women wanted him to do.
Louis seemed to be suggesting that he'd seen them dining together. Frank and Martha Dunstable.
Alone?
Yes, I think so.
Well, that is at least unwise, if it's true. But you should trust Frank's word, unless and until you have evidence to confound it.
Lady Arabella is beside herself. After the doctor took umbrage at the notion that he should stop his niece marrying her son, she sent her husband on a mercy mission. The poor old squire did his level best to convince his old friend.
I am so very vexed about it all, Thorne. That's why I'm here.
I don't believe a word of it, old man. You're here because your wife ordered you to come here and knock some sense into me.
I cannot deny it.
Well, your mission has failed then.
I thought it might.
So you may as well forget your mission and join me for dinner. Can I tempt you?
Why not? At least it delays the skinning I'll get when she finds out I've failed.
The poor old squire had done his best to soften the blow to his wife when he told her about the engagement.
They are what?
I think Frank used the word engaged, Arabella.
Engaged? To be married?
I assume so, my dear. I didn't ask him to define the word. I rather assumed...
You rather assumed? What kind of a father are you? You leave me with no choice but to resolve this matter myself.
The tea will be ready shortly, Lady Arabella.
Thank you, Mary. It helps with my nerves.
I'm sorry to hear you have been suffering.
Oh, let's not dwell on my ailments. I come bearing glad tidings from my daughter. Augusta is engaged to be married.
Well, I'm pleased for her. I shall write to her this afternoon.
And that's why I'm here, Mary. Augusta would be honoured, as would I, if you would consent to be one of her bridesmaids.
Thank you. I will consider your offer and will respond in my letter to Augusta.
We hoped that you would do us this honour.
And who is the lucky young man?
Oh, there will be plenty of time for you to meet him. He's part of the Duke of Omnium's circle.
I expected nothing less.
But we were very much hoping that if you would accept, this might help to heal the unfortunate breach between our families. Help us to reach a proper understanding.
Did you? Well, it is a good thing to heal a breach.
Then you are prepared to abandon any foolish ambitions to marry my son?
Why should I abandon anything simply because you insist on it? If your son loves me and if I love him, then it is none of your concern what we choose to do about it.
Of course it is my concern. How can I stand by while you bankrupt my son and my family? Perhaps it is time for me to spell out what this marriage would mean. Frank would lose what remains of the Greshambury estate within a year. All the staff from Greshambury Hall and the London house would lose their jobs because he could not afford to pay them. The squire and I would lose our home and all our possessions, though I dare say you would shed no tears over that. And how would you live? Frank has told his father he would live on one of the Greshambury farms. But in fact, all 3 farms are losing money, and anyone attempting to make even a meagre living out of them would have to invest substantial funds to buy livestock, replace ruined farm buildings, and employ labour. None of this would be affordable, so the farm would run to ruin. Am I making myself clear?
Perfectly clear. Yes.
Frank is a most eligible young man. With his blood, there must be hundreds of wealthy young ladies in London desperate to turn his head. Such ladies could ensure the survival of Greshambury.
What are you implying?
I'm simply saying you have no divine right to be loved by my son, especially when loving you will bring financial ruin to so many others.
Frank has pledged his love to me. We are engaged.
Frank is an honourable boy. I am sure he has other avenues open to him, but he will never go back on a youthful promise unless you release him from it.
I think you'd better leave, Lady Arabella, before one of us says something we shall regret.
My dear, I never regret what I say.
You sure you're all right, Mary, my dear? You've hardly touched your food.
I'm not quite myself, Uncle. I should perhaps go to bed.
It's very early. Is there anything I can help with?
Oh, Uncle.
There, I knew there was something. What is it, my darling girl?
I think I shall have to give up Frank.
Why? No one can force you. Has Lady Arabella been talking to...
Oh, she was here this morning.
The poisonous witch. How dare she set foot over this threshold?
Oh, she was not rude or brutal.
No, I am surprised.
She simply told me what I already know. That the financial consequences of any love between me and Frank would be disastrous.
You cannot be sure of that, Mary.
Of course I can. The squire is up to his eyes in debt to Louis Scratchard and will end up losing the estate to him.
But circumstances can change, my dear, in ways we can sometimes barely imagine.
I cannot imagine Louis Scratchard bailing out the Christianbury estate. Can you?
No, I cannot imagine that. But Louis is a very sick man indeed. Many things can change.
I must go upstairs, Uncle. I need to dry my eyes so I can see to write a letter.
A letter? Don't do anything rash, Mary.
That is exactly why I must write it. My dearest Frank, since we met, I've been searching my soul trying to decide what to do. The facts are plain. If we were to marry, it would be deeply injurious, indeed ruinous, to your parents, to all the staff who depend on your estate, and most of all, to you. I have always known this, but I had allowed my love for you to blind me to it. But if it be so, then how can I, who love you so well, wish for a marriage that would ruin you? I cannot and will not go back on my promise to you when we met on the night you came home. We pledged our love to each other, and we pledged to marry. The first pledge I will never renounce. The second, I am willing to renounce if it will free you from a promise that will ruin your life. Let me have but one word, and we shall both be released from our engagement. We shall always think the very best of each other, and we shall always be friends. You will, I'm sure, already have other ladies in love with you. London must be full of wealthy, entitled ladies, and I am neither of those things. God bless you, dearest Frank. Think hard about this, and let me have one word. Your affectionate friend, Mary.
I called for you as soon as I saw him like this, Doctor. I couldn't have done it any quicker.
It is not your fault. He has been on this path all along, and in the past few weeks the end has become inevitable. If you'd called me a week ago, it would have made no difference.
Oh, Doctor, what have I done to be so cursed? To lose the two men in my life to the bottle?
I suspect there is an element of inheritance there. I see a lot of sons following their fathers this way.
It's a terrible thing, Doctor.
I shall leave you to pay your respects, unless you'd like me to stay with you.
Just a short while. I wanted to ask for your help with matters.
Of course. What matters do you mean?
Well, you were Roger's executor and Louis's trustee. You know far more about all the money and everything than I do.
It will all be taken care of, Lady Scratchard. Don't you worry.
So now my poor Louis is gone, who will inherit the rest of the estate?
Mary.
Your Mary?
Yes. My Mary and Roger's Mary and your Mary.
Well, bless my soul. Well, I knew she was Roger's next of kin, his eldest niece, but I never dreamt it could happen because it's all been so secret about Mary's background.
And it must remain secret, at least for a few more weeks.
Oh, Doctor, I couldn't be more relieved. Oh, she's a fine young lady, and I should be more than proud to see her inherit. Oh, if she would let me have a small cottage on the estate, I would clear out of Boxall Hill to make way for her.
Mary wouldn't dream of asking you to leave your home.
Oh, I'm so grateful.
Please don't discuss this with Mary until I've resolved it all with the lawyers.
I shall breathe not a word, sir.
I must leave you. I shall contact the undertaker, and he will be with you tonight.
Oh, Doctor, I nearly forgot. Before you go, Louis left something for you.
A bottle of cognac? Well, that's a joke in rather poor taste, isn't it?
Oh, you know Louis liked a joke, but he did want you to have this. It's from his cellar. He says it's the oldest, finest bottle of cognac he's ever owned. And he wanted to thank you for trying to save him.
Well, in that case, I shall accept it. And each time I take a sip, I shall remember him.
And he left these too, for you and Mary.
Tickets to the opera?
Yes, in Covent Garden. He had hoped to go himself, but when he realised he wouldn't, he wanted you and Mary to have them, and he hoped you would take them with his blessing.
This is so generous. I love the opera, but so rarely go. I should be honoured to take Mary in Louis's memory. Thank you.
So Greshamsbury churchyard echoes with the old words. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust, for the second Scratchard man in a year. I don't know how that poor Lady Scratchard copes with so much grief. I really don't. But she's a strong woman. And nothing would please her more than to see Mary Thorne inherit her husband's estate. Dr. Thorne is in London, talking to the lawyers, checking that every jot and tittle of Scratchard's will stands up to scrutiny before he breathes a word to Mary. And young Frank Gresham is in London too, in a fashionable restaurant a couple of streets away. And he's not a happy man.
See? See what she says? London must be full of wealthy, entitled ladies, and I am neither one of those things. Is she trying to leave me?
Well, it does sound strange if you two are engaged, as you say. Do you think your mother has got to her?
My mother has certainly been interfering, but there's something else going on. Mary has known about my family's objections all along, but that does not explain this letter.
Then what does explain it, Frank? You are such a tease sometimes.
Martha, isn't it obvious?
Not to me, sweet boy. But then I haven't had the benefit of a Cambridge education.
Try to be serious, Martha. Listen to this. You will, I'm sure, already have other ladies in love with you.
Well, I'm sure you have. You are quite a catch, darling.
She means you.
What?
She thinks you and I are lovers.
Don't be silly, Frank.
I'm sure of it. She thinks I'm in love with you, and this letter is her attempt to get out of the way to leave us to it, so no one gets hurt.
But can't you tell her?
I have reassured her in the past that there is no other lover for me.
And she doesn't believe you. Isn't that worrying in itself?
It's understandable. We've just spent a year apart, and I've been here in London, and she's picked up rumours.
Who would do that? Who would start malicious rumours against you?
Who do you think?
I've no idea.
Who saw us together in this restaurant a month ago?
That friend of yours? Louis?
Louis Scratchard, and he's no friend of mine.
Why would he do that?
Because he was in love with Mary too.
Then you must talk to Mary again. Go and see her.
I can't. It won't make any difference. The seeds of doubt have been sown now.
Then talk to her uncle. You like him, don't you?
Of course. He's a gentleman.
Take him into your confidence and see what he suggests.
It's probably all I can do.
Oh, don't look so defeated, Frank. Come on, you're strong and clever and resourceful. Are you really going to let the woman you love slip away because of a stupid rumour?
No, you're right. I'll talk to Dr. Thorne and take it from there.
Excellent. You do that tomorrow. In the meantime, it is my job to cheer you up for the rest of the day. You go off and talk to your dull bankers about your dull affairs, and then meet me at Covent Garden, 7 o'clock sharp. I have waited a long time to see this opera, and I intend to enjoy it.
I mean, don't misunderstand me. I think her voice is sublime. But if the audience cannot believe he would love her so obsessively, then...
Perhaps, Frank, her lover is not as vain as you. Perhaps he can see beyond surface beauty to the true beauty of the woman within.
That's nonsense, Martha, and you know it. Besides, I'm not vain.
Not vain? Look at you.
I take care of my appearance like any gentleman.
That lick of hair over your brow, did it just fall like that?
I didn't notice.
Frank, my darling, I'm pretty sure you spent an hour in front of the mirror getting it just right. Here, let me mess it up for you.
Get your hands off me, Martha.
Frank, what an unexpected pleasure.
Oh.
Dr. Thorne. My goodness. Mary. Mary, I had no idea.
Good evening, Mr. Gresham.
This is Miss Martha Dunstable. She's a family friend.
Enchanted to meet you, Miss Dunstable.
And you, Dr. Thorne. I have heard a lot about you.
Oh.
Mary, I didn't know you liked the opera.
I'm sure there are lots of things you didn't know about me. And it seems there are things I didn't know about you.
You mustn't misunderstand this, Mary.
There is nothing to misunderstand, Mr. Gresham.
I got your letter. I need to talk to you.
We must go back in, Mary, or we'll miss the second half. A pleasure to see you, Frank. And delighted to meet you, Miss Dunstable.
Likewise, Dr. Thorne.
Enjoy the denouement. Do you think he'll get his girl?
Oh, that's the wrong question, Doctor. Does she want him? That's the question.
I am eager to find out.
Come along, Frank. Those singers will not wait for us.
Goodbye, Mary.
Goodbye. Are you all right, Mary?
Uncle, I may need to get some air.
We will miss the second half of the opera.
I cannot go back in.
All right, my dear.
I'm sorry to make you miss it.
Don't give it another thought. I never believed he was in love with that soprano anyway.
My footman told me there was someone at the door to see me. I didn't realise it was you. I thought you were in London. If you've come to insult me, you should bear in mind that my heart is not strong, and I shall close the door on you.
I have come to tell you that I've decided to step down from my engagement to your son.
Well, I cannot tell you how relieved I am.
I believe that Frank should be free to pursue other more lucrative relationships.
It is in the best interests of all concerned, my dear. Will you not come in?
I have said all I have to say, Lady Arabella. I bid you good day.
I do appreciate you meeting me at such short notice, Dr. Thorne, and in London.
It really is no trouble, Frank. I've been here for days trying to sort out Scratchard's will.
Yes, I was sorry to hear of Louis's death.
How can I help you, Frank?
Well, the first thing I want to say is about Covent Garden.
Oh, yes?
That woman you saw me with at the opera, Martha Dunstable. She's an old family friend.
I thought nothing more.
But Mary looked horrified, as if...
This really is a matter for you and Mary to discuss, Frank. It is no business of mine.
Well, I did wonder if I could take you into my confidence, Dr. Thorne, as Mary's uncle. I would be most grateful.
If I can help, I surely will.
I have received a letter from Mary. Here, I will show it to you.
No, Frank, I cannot read Mary's private correspondence. You will have to explain your concerns without the letter.
Yes, of course, I'm sorry. It's just that she, in her letter, seems to be saying that we cannot marry. That our love is unsustainable.
Unsustainable?
Well, she doesn't use that word, but she knows that my parents are insisting I marry into money.
They do have a point. I've seen the Greshambury accounts, remember?
I know. And I know how much help and support you've given to my father with those...
No. It's nothing. He's a good friend, your father, and a good man. He just wants you to have a better life than he has.
Well, how can I do that if I'm denied the chance to marry the woman I love?
He is worried that you would have nothing to live on.
If you will forgive my lack of modesty, Dr. Thorne, I am moderately clever and resourceful. I'm sure we would not starve.
I'm sure you wouldn't. In fact, increasingly sure.
How do you mean, sir?
I cannot say more, not at this stage, but suffice it to say that Mary loves you, I'm sure of that, and that I am working towards a resolution that may help you to get what you want.
But if I write her a letter, would you make sure it gets to her?
Of course I will.
I'm very grateful to you for agreeing to meet me at such short notice.
It was no trouble. I'm not busy today.
And I'm sorry to drag you out of the house. I felt this conversation needed some privacy.
I am happy to walk. The air does me good.
I felt I had to come to Greshambury to speak to you as soon as I realised what was happening.
And what is happening, Miss Dunstable?
I fear there is a grave misunderstanding.
Well, I hope you don't think that I am the cause of it.
No, not at all. But I fear you may be the victim of it. You know why I am here.
Of course I do.
But what you may not know is that the rumour you heard, the rumour from Louis Scratchard about me and Frank Gresham, is utterly without foundation.
I find that hard to believe.
Why? It's utterly untrue.
You clearly know Frank well.
I do know him well. And I am very fond of him.
Well, how did you meet him? In London?
No, at Courcy Castle. Ridiculously, his mother and his aunt tried to marry me off to him. I am, you see, the daughter of a businessman, which puts me socially beneath their contempt. But I have a redeeming feature.
Money?
Yes, lots of it. I inherited my father's fortune.
So, did Frank ask you to marry him?
Not really.
Well, what do you mean? Surely either he did or he didn't.
He went through the motions of a proposal on the last day of our stay there to appease those witches who were putting him up to it. There was never a shadow of a possibility of it. That's why he felt safe going through the motions. In fact, my chief memory of that trip to Courcy Castle was how desperately Frank is in love with you.
Really?
He never stopped talking about it. He was under such pressure from his family to marry money. The only person he ever wanted to marry was you. Mary, I don't know how to put it any more clearly. I have no designs on romance or love with Frank, and nor does he with me. We are friends, and I try to support him in his troubles as a friend should, and most of those troubles are about you. He's completely in love with you, and determined to marry you, whatever his mother says. You must believe that.
Mary, I'm back. Sorry I'm so late. The train was very slow.
Oh, sit by the fire, Uncle. You look frozen.
Oh, it is bitter out there.
Miss Dunstable came to visit me today.
Miss who?
Dunstable. Remember the woman we met at the opera?
Oh, yes. She was charming, I thought. What did she want?
She came to tell me she was not in love with Frank.
Well, it never crossed my mind that she was.
No. You're right. She's not. I think she was worried that she'd given that impression at the opera.
Sounds an odd conversation.
It was, rather. But she is very nice.
She is also very rich, I gather, which is why Lady Arabella was desperate for Frank to meet her in the first place.
Indeed.
Have you ever wondered what it's like to have as much money as she has?
I do not think about it. The fox who is born without a tail does not miss it.
But if nature should suddenly give that beast a tail, would he not be prouder of it than all the other foxes in the wood?
Well, I suppose he would. But why are you asking me about money?
Well, I suppose because I've spent the day discussing the terms of Roger Scratchard's will.
Are you close to resolving it? It has been such a burden on you.
It really is no burden. Quite fascinating, actually, to see how these legal processes work. And I'm optimistic that the right outcome can be achieved.
The right outcome?
Yes, for all concerned.
You are very hard to talk to sometimes, Uncle.
I am sorry, my dear. Forgive me. It's been a long day and a lot of travel. I'm running a slight fever.
Oh, dear. Well, can I get you anything?
No. Sleep will fix me. I shall be better company in the morning.
I shall stay up and write some letters.
Oh, yes, there is a letter for you. I brought it back from London. It's on the hall table.
Well, who's it from?
From Frank Gresham, I believe.
You believe? Well, did you meet him?
Just to pass on a letter, not a long meeting.
Well, I shall read it later. Thank you.
Well, good night, my dear.
Good night, Uncle.
My dearest Mary, did you really expect me to reply to your letter with an admission of failure? Did you expect me to give up on my longing to marry you? Did you expect me to turn my back on loving you in favour of the company of rich debutantes? If so, Mary, then I fear you do not know me at all. I have not the faintest interest in any other girl. You can walk away. You can marry another man. You can burn all my letters and rid your mind of any trace of me. But I will still love you, and that will never change. Yours ever devotedly, Frank.
Good morning, Uncle. Are you feeling better? I was worried about you last night.
Oh, don't you ever worry about me, Mary. Like most doctors, my body has seen off every ailment under the sun. I have a hide as tough as an ox.
Has your fever come down?
Oh, yes. A good night's sleep and I'm ready for anything.
Oh, surgery's not open yet. Shall I send them away?
Oh, no, I'll go. I know who it is. Good morning.
Good morning, Dr. Thorne.
Thank you for being so prompt. Please come through.
Frank! What are you doing here? Uncle, what's this about?
I have invited Frank and his father here this morning, Mary, and I'm afraid I'm going to have to ask you to wait in the parlour for a short while.
Oh, and is that all you have to tell me? What about you, Frank?
I am no wiser than you, Mary.
Oh, I am sorry to be so mysterious. All will be explained shortly, but we have some business to discuss.
Then I shall leave you to it.
Thank you.
I wanted to talk to you, actually, Thorne.
Oh, yes?
About Mary.
He's asking on my behalf, Dr. Thorne. Mary has been to the house to tell my mother she is stepping down from our engagement.
I wouldn't worry too much about that.
But I do worry, Doctor. I cannot lose her.
The fact is that Frank has convinced me of the depth of his commitment, and I am reconciled to his marrying the girl he loves.
If she will still have me.
They will never be rich, but I have agreed to give them one of the farms, and he must tend it as a working farmer. I don't know how long it'll last, but he has a good degree, so other work may be achievable if it fails.
Stop, Squire, stop a minute. The death of Sir Louis Scratchard will have a bearing on all this.
In that it will confirm the sum of my debts.
I believe Mary has broken our engagement to protect me. I do believe she loves me, and I certainly love her. But I think she is terrified of delivering me into poverty.
And do you think you would enjoy farming, Frank?
I would do any work if it enabled me to spend my life with Mary.
Well, I may have some relevant information on that score.
Oh?
I have been in London most of this week talking to lawyers in my capacity as executor of Sir Roger Scratchard's will. As you can imagine, for such a huge estate, the will is very complicated.
I dare say, with all those loans to me wrapped up in it. If his inheritors call in the loans, I am ruined.
Oh, wait, please. Before leaping to conclusions, allow me to finish. Sir Roger Scratchard died leaving provision for his wife to ensure she would never want for anything as long as she lives.
She deserves that. She's a good woman.
Indeed she is, Frank. And she is very happy with the provision made for her. So Scratchard then left the entire rest of the estate, as you know, to his son Louis, to be held in trust until his 25th birthday. But you also know that Louis, God rest his soul, didn't live to see his 25th birthday.
Yes, I'd be lying if I said I missed him, Thorne. He was making life very painful for us.
That is, if you'll forgive me, irrelevant. Louis has gone, so the future of your loans now lies in the hands of the new heir to the Scratchard fortune.
Oh, tell me it's not some drunken cousin like Louis, but without the charm.
No, it's not a cousin. It's my niece.
I'm sorry, Thorne.
Mary?
Yes. Yes, Frank, it's Mary. As you know, Mary is the daughter of Sir Roger's only sibling, so Mary is his next of kin.
Wait, so does this mean...
Bless my soul.
It means that Mary is richer than all of you and the de Courcys put together. She owns all of Boxall Hill, all of the Scratchard's vast business holding.
And all my debts.
Yes, I don't think you need worry about those loans anymore.
Does Mary know?
Not yet. I thought you might want to tell her yourself, right?
Me? Oh my goodness. We can marry now, can't we? With everyone's blessing.
I can't see how even Lady Arabella could object to you marrying an heiress.
It's what she's always wanted.
I can't tell Mary. I can barely speak.
You should tell her, Thorne. You have worked so hard all these years to care for her. It should be your honour to tell her.
Very well.
Oh, Uncle, what is it? You look so serious. And what are you talking to the Greshams about? I've been so worried.
Mary, calm down. Have a seat and take some deep breaths. Now, you have heard much, I know, of Roger Scratchard's great fortune.
Yes, of course.
And now that poor Louis is dead...
Yes?
It has all been left...
To Frank. To Mr. Gresham. Well, that's why you were talking to them. Oh, I knew it.
No, Mary, not to the Greshams.
Oh, no. I thought if it was left to them, then I could marry Frank, because...
No, it has not been left to the Greshams because it has been left to you.
To me? To me? What?
Yes, Mary. It is all yours now, to do with as you see fit. And may God, in all his mercy, enable you to bear the burden of such great wealth.
But how? Why?
Your mother.
She was a Scratchard. Yes, I knew it. And Mrs. Scratchard treated me like family.
You are family, to them and to me. Your mother was Sir Roger's beloved sister. She was wronged by my brother, Henry.
Oh, Uncle. I can barely believe what you've done for me all these years. To care for someone else's child as if I were your own.
You are my own, Mary.
To carry around that secret for so many years. It must have been a burden.
Nothing about you has ever been a burden to me. I just didn't want the facts of your parentage to hurt or disadvantage you.
Oh, Uncle.
And I think it's fair to say those facts have not disadvantaged you today.
I can marry him. Is it true, Uncle? Is it all really true? Why hasn't Frank come through to tell me?
I asked him to, but he felt I should tell you.
Then I shall go to him.
Oh, Mary!
Oh, Frank! Frank, my Frank! We shall never be separated now.
And so Frank did, after all, perform his great duty. He did marry money. Or at least, he got engaged to marry money, for a wedding as grand as theirs will take a lot of planning and cannot be rushed. Now, at Greshamsbury Hall, Mary Thorne, who not long ago was exiled as a pariah, is entertained by Lady Arabella like the most honoured guest in the land. What a difference a vast fortune makes.